What's up, and welcome back to Bar Down Talking Hockey, episode number 105, presented by the Bar Room Network. My name is Vinny Parisi, and I am an Anaheim Ducks fan for today. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he's a Ottawa Senators fan for today only. Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What about the Detroit fans?
We don't have a third guy to be a Detroit fan. It was only 1 year anyway. Who cares? The reason we are, what's going on, Skokes? The reason we are super excited about to, mention the Ottawa Senators and the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim at one point in time, of course, we are super thrilled to bring onto our show former NHL star, multiple time 30-goal scorer, Masterton Trophy winner, Olympian, all the great things you can say about him. Of course, I'm talking about Bobby Ryan. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Tough teams to be fans of this year, but if it's only for one day, that's all right.
You know what's funny about those two teams, though? Frank and I lumped those two together. Like they're both going to compete for most of the year, and then one of them might sneak in. But we'll get to that in a second.
Coming.
They are.
Yeah.
So is Detroit. Yeah, absolutely.
They're a couple years out.
Absolutely. Bobby, before we get into talking to you a little bit about your career and all that kind of stuff, which Frank and I are just super stoked to have you. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Thank you.
The thing I wanted to start off with, one of the most intriguing things I noticed when I was going through your profile and what led to you becoming an NHL player and all that, you played for the Owen Sound Attack early on when you were a teenager getting ready to make a run at the NHL. You're an American boy, though. Good American boy. Yep. What made you choose major junior over college?
At that point, there had been very few guys that really had taken that route. But for me, I wanted that American college dream to play at the University of Michigan, which is where I was going to be headed. And I got drafted 7th overall by Owen Sound. Usually they pick you kind of in the 4th and the 5th round if you're an American, and they hope that you might come. And Owen Sound took a chance, and Mike Futa, who became, is now a good friend, was my general manager and kind of, I guess wined and dined me when I went up there. But it was really Bobby Clarke and my dad who sat me down. And I knew I was a good player. I didn't know. I knew I was one of the better players in the country. I just didn't know that where I stood against the rest of the world. And they said, you're going to be a top 5, top 10 pick. Be ready to play in the NHL at 20 and not be going into your second year of college at 20. Go play against men as a 16-year-old. So they kind of pushed me in that direction. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made. Not to slight U.S. hockey or anything like that, but it was just for my personal development. I needed to go play against older guys.
Yeah, so after your career with the Owen Sound Attack, now you're starting to think about the NHL. You're about to, it's a big step forward from the OHL. And like you said, you're thinking top 5, top 10 pick, but no, you're drafted 2nd by the Anaheim Ducks and right after Sidney Crosby. So you got to be thinking oh my God, I just got chosen 2nd overall in the draft. What did that mean to you? What went through your head, knowing that you just got drafted in the NHL?
Well, it validated the decision I made to go to Owen Sound. I don't know that I was the 2nd overall pick had I played at the U.S. program and been entering into college hockey. I was never a player that fit the U.S. hockey mold in the program, and obviously there was some slights there when I think I should have made some teams in the past, and there were some times where I left them kind of high and dry. I understand that, but you have to make the decision that's best for the longevity of your career. But all that being said, it validated my decision, and it my past is obviously very well documented and well known, and it was a tumultuous few years leading into the draft and previously. So. It was just a culmination. and a small bit of success in a tough environment, in a tough road. So it wasn't the end success, right? You had a lot of work to do after you're drafted, but it was certainly it gave me validation that I had done everything right up until the point.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You're a closet Devils fan, right?
No, I can't say I ever was. No, I was right across the bridge from Philly, boys. I apologize.
That's funny. Frank here's a Blackhawks fan. We
You
have
don't
all
to
sorts.
apologize to me.
We have all sorts of fanhood across the show and across our fans. But yeah, I'm a Devils fan. And I was just curious, like, did Bobby Ryan grow up rooting for the Devils? But Cherry Hill's closer to Philly, so so you grew up a Flyers fan then?
Yeah, we had Flyers season tickets when I was really young. And Bobby Clark and my dad are very close personal friends, so I was always around Clarkie. Always around as I grew into being a player at 14, 15 years old. They had me training with the Flyers guys in the summer. It was incredible. So I still have allegiances to the Philadelphia Flyers. I gotta apologize to I know you guys are all over the map on your fandom, and the Blackhawks are a tough team to be a fan of this year too. But I was a Flyers kid.
Yeah, for sure. You spent most of your career with Anaheim, 6 years with Anaheim, 7 years with Ottawa. Spent a little time with Detroit. You ended your career there 1 year. But what have you thought so far about the direction that these teams have gone in?
Well, they're all at different areas of their rebuild would be the right word. I think Ottawa's kind of coming out of theirs. And, this year I think was a lost year. They had a tough start. They were 4-12, I believe, at one point. So when you don't get off to that kind of start and you're a young team, it's a hard road. I thought Detroit at one point this year was a little further ahead because they brought in some veterans, but they kind of trailed off. They didn't get goaltending for a lot of the year, so that changes things immensely. But Ottawa had the injury bug. I think Ottawa's a playoff team next year, and if they're not, they're right there. They're right there this year. But they need a tandem in net, and their young players have come along very well. They need the rest of them to kind of step into some roles next year.
Vin, I don't remember when we were talking about Ottawa. We didn't expect them to be that good this year, but if they were like one of our surprise picks, that they could potentially surprise this year. So I completely agree. Like by next year or the year after, they're right there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, they found a way to go on some runs, and if they get some goaltending, I think they have a much different conversation going forward now. But you're not good enough to get into a position where you start 4-12 to make the playoffs in the NHL. There's just too much parity across the league now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in 2010, you were a part of one of my favorite teams I ever watched, the 2010 USA team, the Olympic squad. Closest they've come to winning the gold in my lifetime, I'm pretty sure. And you're part of this great team. So Zach Parise's in his prime with the Devils. You got Paul Stastny, Patrick Kane's coming up with the Chicago Blackhawks. They ended up going on to win the cup that year. Guys like Jack Johnson, Ryan Suter, Chris Drury, Ryan Callahan. The list goes on. Brian Rafalski, one of my favorite players ever. Yeah. That team had to be just so fun to hang out, though, like on and off the ice, right?
It was, yeah. And it's different because the Vancouver Canucks, excuse me, the Olympics was in Vancouver that year. So hockey was at the forefront. When you go over to Russia and other things, there's other stuff, other sports that take precedence, and not when you're playing in Canada. So we got that experience, and we were very isolated. The women's team, I think, stayed in the same, I guess, the dorm complex, but it felt like you were just around your group of guys, the hockey teams. And we saw the women's team in and out. We saw some other guys coming in and out of our building. I think the curlers were in there, but we had a very, very isolated group, and it was a lot of fun. You never know what you're going to get in a 17-day tournament, how the team's going to bond, how the team's going to, come together. But I thought we did an incredible job, and that speaks to the leadership, because we had some old guys in the room. Chris Drury was there. Ryan Suter, who wasn't exactly old, but was, kind of that leader. Some other guys as well that just got the group together all the time. And then we had some young guys, right, that wanted to learn from those guys. So we meshed incredibly well. Everybody put egos aside. For me, I went in as a goal scorer, and I think I was one of the leading American scorers in the NHL up until that point. And they said, you're going to be more of a checker. And I said, that's fine. Whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do. And, your roles change, and everybody was accepting of what that role was going to be. And that's why we had success ultimately, coming up one goal short, unfortunately. But that's why we found ways to have successes, because everybody just kind of checked their ego and did what they were told.
Sidney freaking Crosby, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. When Parise tied it, I was like, we got this.
Yeah.
And then nothing.
Yeah, no, that was a tough. We went in. we felt like we had all the energy in between, the third period and overtime because of that. And then you get to 4-on-4 hockey and things just change. Anything can change. I think Joe Pavelski had a nice shot early on that could have won it. If I remember correctly, it was him. And then you just get, not a weak goal, but a surprise shot that finds its way. And that's, you're on a plane back home very, very fast after that. It's amazing how quick the turnaround is when you switch out of Olympic hockey into regular season hockey.
Yeah. So when you start early in your career, when you were with the Ducks, I loved watching you play because the Hawks had some pretty intense games with Anaheim.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun to watch. And now you look at the two franchises now, Chicago and Anaheim. It's not much the same as what it used to be, but back in the day when you were on the Ducks, those were some really, really fun games to watch. But yeah, you played in 866 games. You had 261 goals, 308 assists for 569 points. That is great. Like, I'd sign up for that today to be in the NHL and have those numbers. But what was your favorite moment that you had? Because I know you never went on to win the cup, but it's hard to win the cup. So that's a tough thing to do, and it's out of your control for something like that to happen because it's a team game. But other than what was your biggest moment or your most memorable moment, I should say?
I think probably I guess it's not a moment, but a run was the 2017 run with Ottawa. Which we eventually lost to Pittsburgh, who came on. I'm in Nashville now, who came on to beat the Predators. Because I think if we won that series, we had a really good chance of beating Nashville. They were pretty banged up, and the back end was a little thin. So we had an opportunity. But that run was some of the better hockey I had played. I had a couple overtime winners and a couple other game winners during the run. Our team just found ways to get it done. We weren't the best team. Probably on paper, but we had a lot of up and coming guys like Stoner and Hoffman and Erik Karlsson was playing at just another level on the backside for us. So that was my favorite run. I ultimately think we missed a couple opportunities in Anaheim, just not being able to get through Detroit. If we get through Detroit, I think that we're probably, staring down a lengthy run on a couple of them and, came up a little short, unfortunately, but that 17 run was probably my favorite stretch of hockey.
That series against the Penguins. Oh my God.
The play Sid made to feed Kunitz, who shot that knuckle puck to beat Craig Anderson I'll never forget that play forever.
Me neither, bud.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
10 playoff series of all time in my life that I've witnessed.
100%. And you talk about playing with EK65. Like, Erik Karlsson's one of the best defensemen we've ever seen, at least in the last 20 years. When you were in Anaheim, you got to play with Getzlaf and Perry. Didn't you form a line with them at one point, in some of the heydays of your career? What was it like playing with those guys, even at the power play, even strength, whatever that may be?
Yeah, so I played primarily 5 years on the left side with those two. And there were stretches where we brought guys to try and form a second line, but we were really, really dependent on one line. And that's a problem if you want to win. And you could make a case, I guess, that, for a few of those years, we were one of the better lines in the NHL. The year that Pears won MVP, gets at 100 points, I think 1 year, give or take. And it was very easy for me to rattle off 30 or 35 because you're playing with those guys. You're going to see a lot of one-timers. You're going to see a lot of backdoor plays. So we had a good line. We were just too heavily dependent on one of them. We didn't really have that second and third line that could score. We had some grind line and all that, but those two guys were easy to play with. I talk about Getsy, who's just moving right over there, in the process of moving here as well. Those guys have been, those guys will be lifelong friends. They're two. Pears is still playing. I'm like, they're gonna have to carry that guy out of a building at some point. I didn't choose to go that route. It wasn't meant to be for me. But some of the most fun times in hockey. You never knew. At any given night, we felt like we could go out and score 3 or 4 for the team, and that was a really, really good feeling. Just wish we hadn't come up short in some of the bigger moments, and that's it's hard when you're the sole focus of another team as one line. It makes it hard to win. It really does. But at the same time, it was just such a blast. I loved playing in Anaheim. What a great place to play hockey.
So on this show, I love when we interview people who also have their own podcast. And I know you're a co-host on the Coming in Hot podcast. Tell us more about it, how it came to be. What's it about?
Well, I was doing a lot of guest work with Brent Wallace, who is still, the lead co-host for us, and holds the show together pretty well. And Mark Mathot, Wally and Meth show, they had it for about maybe a little over a year, give or take. But, I think Meth wanted to go his own direction because he was doing some really good things on TV. And actually, I couldn't agree more with the decision he made because he's absolutely phenomenal on the broadcast. And I get to watch a lot of Sens games now covering these guys in some sense. So Meth made a great decision for him. And, Wally was kind of looking for something. He wanted to stay in this avenue. And I had done some things with him. And, the media side of things was always interesting to me. But I was never going to do media if I had to travel. I've done the traveling. I want to be home where my kids are. This was something that would keep me engaged for 3-4 hours a week, covering a team that I know, a city that I'm passionate about, and things like that. And it's very weird to be so, short removed from hockey, where you have to be analytical about guys that you like. So it makes it a little, tricky at times. And I try to keep it light. And one thing I've always said is that I'm going to side with the player, because I don't know the inner workings of the room or the coaching staff or whatever is going on, but I want to side with the player. So I think we're doing some good work. We're picking up some steam as a group, and Jason York's got this old school mentality that he brings into the fold that makes our show a lot of fun, and we get to banter and do things like that. So I'm really enjoying it. It's keeping me engaged in the game a little bit, has me watching hockey and not so much golf. And it's been fun.
That's awesome. Bobby, speaking of podcasts, you were teammates with Ryan Whitney.
Yeah.
What was that guy like?
Just a clusterfuck. You know what? As soon as he started outside of hockey with the podcast and everything, I was like, this guy's going to just absolutely kill it in this avenue. Because number one, you never have to worry about where you stand or how he feels. He's going to tell you, and he's going to tell you sometimes vulgarly, which I always appreciated. I loved playing with him. We played in the Olympics together. I thought he was hilarious, a little much at times, but very, very, very good at this side of things. And, has marketed himself very well. So he's probably, I would shudder to think about what he's making off of that thing right now, but he's killed it. And I knew as soon as he started that he would. There was just no doubt in my mind. And then you bring Biz into the fold and they can play off one of each other. It's just, they're absolutely phenomenal at what they do.
Did you ever meet Biz?
I played with Biz in Owen Sound. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Oh,
we brought him in at the deadline to be kind of a shutdown defenseman for us. And I don't even know if we won a round that year. I think we lost because we ran into Mike Richards and Kitchener Rangers. We beat Plymouth and then ran into Mike Richards, who was just, there was no stopping him in that series. He was phenomenal. But yeah, I played with him very little bit of an age gap, but he was a good dude. And then played against him for years. So, not a guy I keep in touch with, but always say hello when we cross paths, kind of thing.
For sure. Cool.
Those guys, they have such a unique personality. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Clusterfuck. That's hilarious.
That's
Did he ever call you a fucking pigeon?
I'm sure he did. Not that I can remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm more than positive he probably did.
That's funny.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, the other night, we witnessed a pretty big milestone and something that hasn't happened since 1995. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins got 100 points, which made him the third player on the Oilers to reach 100 points this year, which the last time that happened was 1995, 1996, when Mario Lemieux had 161, Jaromir Jagr had 149, and Ron Francis had 119. Wow. And I mean, those are some pretty big players, obviously, some Hall of Fame caliber players there. But what does that say about this Oilers team for them doing it now in the modern day era? Something that hasn't happened since 95, and now it happens again. It must say a lot.
It does, to the fact that they've got a very good power play, and I'm more impressed with Nugent Hopkins doing it than the other two, because they play together a lot. And Nuge is always kind of the third wheel. And I said something, I didn't say it on air. I said something not long ago to somebody when we were just talking hockey. And I was like, if that guy is the ultimate Swiss Army knife to have, a Nugent Hopkins, you can put him on the wing, you can put him on the 2C or the 3C role. He doesn't see, I've got very little interaction with him, but I thought he was a really, really polite young kid. He was just 19 or 20 when I met him. And I was like, this kid's just going to be a player. And he is. what it says is they can score. And I ultimately worry about taking them in any kind of playoff situation because they don't play defense. But, and that's great if you want to have track meets on Tuesday night in Newark, but it doesn't really bode well if you have a 7-game series against the LA Kings. So I'm not real sold on the team. Any given night, they can hang 4 on you and win, but I just don't know if they're cut out to win in the playoffs the way they play. But you can't argue the point totals. And then you got a guy like Zach Hyman. I don't know where he's at, but he's a hell of a player too.
He's up there.
Yeah.
He's
so
gaining it on 80 points.
Yeah, it's just incredible what they're doing out there points wise. But yeah, I say that all with a cautionary tale for waiting for the playoffs.
Very interesting. When you watch across the league, and I know you focus in on a couple of, teams that are close to you, of course, everyone does. But is there an active player right now that reminds you of yourself? Like when you watch him, you're like, that guy kind of does what I used to do.
Oh, man. No, I guess I would have to pay more attention to the individual player. He's a much better player than I am, but Tage Thompson, I think, has some similarities. Much better skater than I am, but I do look at the way that he makes moves around the net. And some of the goals that he scored where he's just, I scored a lot of goals because I had a long reach in tight and I could kind of maneuver around goalies. So sometimes I see plays like him and I was like, oh, I feel like I scored 1 or 2 of those. But that being said, I think he's a much better, more well-rounded player than I am. He's got a better shot. He's got a better knack for finding holes than I ever did. But yeah, I see some of it. He's tall, he's lanky, and I certainly couldn't skate like him. These guys coming in now skate so much better than I ever did.
So on this show, what we like to talk about every once in a while is we like to talk about the trophy races to see, keep everybody up to date on what may happen at the end of the year, like the Rocket Richard or the Hart or the Vezina or whatnot. But I think a lot of those trophies are basically wrapped up unless something crazy were to happen.
Yeah.
But some that are more, let's say, closer, but even them still may be locked up in a way, like the Calder, the Calder Trophy, or the Norris Trophy, or stuff like that. Do you have a pick on who would win the Norris or the Calder? I mean, I kind of have an idea who you're going to lean towards with the Calder because they were my pick preseason, so I'm pretty happy about that. But
Not to brag.
Not to brag.
For the Calder, and we just covered this on our show, and it's hard because I think that the people that vote on this award look just at statistics, and that's why it becomes such an offensive award. Started to watch a little more of Matty Beniers and really, really like him. I think he's going to win it. I genuinely think that Jake Sanderson should be in the top 3 after playing and watching him this year and the elevated role that he's got. Owen Power looks like he's in a rocking chair all the time, the way he plays the game. And then I really like the kid in Arizona after watching him the other night. So I think my pick would have to, it's going to be Beniers, but I think Sanderson's a very, very close sec. I just don't think he's even going to make the top 3 because of media and the way he doesn't get the same coverage. He's behind Shabbat. Now he's behind Chikrin. Even though those guys are injured, this guy's playing 27 minutes a night most nights. And it's a lot for a 21-year-old kid, but he's doing a great job of it. So that being said, Matty Beniers is going to win it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Matthias Michelli, he's been good.
That's the kid. Yes. Yeah.
From Arizona. Ooh.
I like him, man. I like that kid a lot. Yeah.
Oh, so do I. He's feisty.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
McTavish on the Ducks too. I think he'll probably be in the conversation as well. I was surprised when Ottawa took Sanderson over Drysdale, who ended up going to the Ducks. Your 2 teams got the top 2 defensemen in the draft, but freaking Sanderson has just been so good. I'm with you on that. I like that pick. I'm the kind of guy too. Like Beniers got all the points.
He's going to win it.
Seattle's going to the playoffs. Like those things, they go into it for whatever reason. But I like your way of thinking on that for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he should be discounted up, but ultimately, I don't even think he gets top 3 nod unless people are really, really paying attention.
For sure.
Is there ever a world you guys think that Stuart Skinner would make a top 3 for the, for the Calder?
Yeah. I do think that he could slide into the top 3 spot. Yeah. And I think that people will vote for a goalie. People would like to see a goalie in the mix. Yeah.
Decent, so.
Yeah. I think my top 3 are, it's going to end up being, I think it'll be Beniers at 1, Owen Power at 3. And then I don't know. Owen Power is 2, excuse me. And I don't know who gets that third nod if you're looking at all offense, but I think Stuart Skinner should probably find a way. That's not my top 3. That's the top 3 I think we'll see.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's very fair. All these players that we mentioned, whether they're rookies or, veterans in the league at this point, they're all amazing. And the NHL is just, it's deeper than I think it's ever been. And I know some old people probably are like, oh, our guys were good too. But like today's game is just so loaded. And so when you watch these kids today, do you ever think back to when you were playing? Like, who was the best when you were playing? I know you were in a time you played with Getzlaff, you played with Perry, a couple Hart Trophy candidates and winners. You were drafted 1 pick behind Crosby. Pavel Datsyuk was in the league while you were playing. Who sticks out as the best player that you played with or against?
I think the best that I've played with would be Getzlaff and Carlson from the ability to take over a game. I don't think either one of them are the most skilled players, but I think that they have the ability to take over a game. Getzy had a way of slowing the game down. Carl had a way of speeding it up. They were just different players on the ice, and you could feel it every time. But I think my answer would be the same as anybody that played the same, stretch that I did. You got guys like, Crosby for one. And I didn't see a lot of him. I was in the West and then saw more of him in the East, right? But Patrick Kane's going to get a lot of, he's probably going to go down as the best all-time American player in history, I think. If not 1, he's 2 or 3. He's in that conversation, but he played the game differently. The guys that were the hardest to play against were the Datsyuks and the Zetterbergs. For me, Jonathan Toews was a pain in the ass to play against. I'm trying to think who else. The Sedin twins, only because of the puck possession. So you would spend 2-3 minutes in your zone at times against them. Ultimately, they didn't get a shot, but but they were down there, and you were just standing at the point going, "I got my guy." So those are just some of the names. I think that Nick Lidstrom was a nightmare as well from the defensive side of things. Just you couldn't get a puck past him. Could not get a puck past him.
So speaking of all these players in different teams, we've officially entered April, which means we're getting ready for playoff hockey, and I'm super stoked. And we have some tight races in both the East and the Western Conference. Right now in the West, both wild cards are up for grab, and it's probably going to go to Winnipeg, Calgary, or Nashville, 2 of those teams. And in the East, Seattle's basically, they're locked into the first wild card, but wild card, the second one, wild card number 2, is up for grabs, which is either going to go to Florida, New York, or Pittsburgh.
Florida, New York, or Pittsburgh.
Florida, New York, or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but I think I said for the West. I meant the East.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Because I said Seattle. Never mind. So let me start over. Sorry about that. Seattle is locked in the West in wild card 1. And that's either the second wild card is up for grabs, which is going to go between Winnipeg, Calgary, or Nashville. In the East, both wild cards are up for grabs, and 2 of these 3 teams, Florida, Islanders, or Pittsburgh, are going to get into the playoffs. Who's your pick for each conference? Who do you got in the West between Winnipeg, Calgary, and Nashville, and who do you got in the East?
So I think Winnipeg finds a way in just because they got the game in hand on Nashville and they're tied at this point. So you have to think they're going to find an extra point in that extra game. I don't know their schedules. I wish I would have taken a deeper dive to
Winnipeg plays Nashville on Saturday.
So that obviously that's a big one. I think Nashville, and I give them credit for being where they're at with all the injuries this year. I actually just saw Ryan Johansson 2-3 days ago over at our golf course. We're all members right around the corner here. He's in the walking boot. You got Dutchy who's out. They're finding ways to get it done, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So I think Winnipeg grabs the last spot. That is my pick. Sounds like the coach got into some guys and they started to respond a little bit. And they're a scary team. They're big. They're heavy. They can play a lot of different ways. So they could do some damage if they sneak in. Calgary, to me, I'm not unsold. I like their brand, but I don't know if they're going to get it done this time of year. And then I think Florida and Pittsburgh are ultimately the 2 teams. I think Pittsburgh will find a way. They've got too many guys that have played too many big games, and not only in the season but into the late in the playoffs. So I think they find a way to get it done. And New York Islanders would be the team that I got on the outside looking in.
Oh, I like that.
Were you ever part of a team that is in the position of all these guys right now, where like you're fighting tooth and nail to get in the playoffs, or was it always you were kind of clinched by now or dead by now?
With the 2017 run, we only clinched 3-4 days left before the season, end it.
That's right. That was when you upset the Bruins in the first round, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We slid in late, and I had been out for, I think it was 5 weeks, watching and hoping and praying for the guys, right? Because I was like, I don't want to do all this work to get healthy, to not play. So I got back with 1 game left in the regular season with Clark MacArthur, who was out for the year almost. So him and I and Chris Neal, who was also hurt, were behind the scenes kind of hoping and praying, and we got the guys got the job done. They won a big game against the Rangers. To I don't know if that was to clinch, but it was to put a dagger in somebody else and give us a really good look going in. So we slid in. The 3 of us all came back from injury and kind of slid back into the lineup and went on. But usually I was usually on a team that was either well out or well in. There wasn't a lot of frustration going down the stretch.
Interesting. Very interesting. So with all that being said, who's your favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year?
Oh, it's hard to argue against Boston, isn't it?
It is.
The only thing I would say, and I said this on our podcast, whoever comes out of the East is going to be exhausted. I mean, I like Jersey. I see what you're doing. I'm just not.
You need experience. It's hard without experience.
That's what I say every week.
To me, it's going to be, you got to get out of the Metro. And Carolina's been there, done that, never gotten past, the conference finals, but I think they come out of the Metro. I just think Boston, with what they've done this year is good. Toronto's sneaky. So I think the best 3 teams in the playoffs are coming from the Pacific Division, or the Atlantic, excuse me. So I'm taking Boston out of the Eastern Conference. The West, I don't know what the West is. Colorado is hard to argue with. And then you know what? I really, really like Dallas.
Wow.
With that top line. I don't know if they have the depth, that you need, but and then LA's kind of trailed off a little bit. But my final is going to be Boston, Colorado, and Boston gets it done. And then you see Krejci right off, you see Bergeron right off, and that's it'd be a proper send off for 2 guys that have been around the league a long time.
Yeah, for sure. And you're in Nashville right now, and I don't know if 10 years ago, because 10 years ago I wasn't even around, old enough to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know if it was the party town that it is today, and obviously Vegas wasn't in the league. Is there a road city that you were just like, oh, the boys and I are going to get after it in this city? I know Montreal's like that for a lot of guys. I've heard the stories about, is it the Roxy in Vancouver?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've heard the stories. We've had, some guys come out here and say some funny stuff. Was there a city like that for you?
Nashville.
Oh, okay. So I'm wrong. Nashville is always fun.
Nashville is always great. You stayed right downtown, all the honky tonks. And if you like the country music, which I love the country music scene. So it was great. You could, go to practice and you come out for lunch and have a couple lunch beers with the boys after practice. And there's live music in every street. I'm pretty far removed. I'm 35 miles south of it. I don't do that scene anymore, obviously, but
it's fun.
I loved it. I got one night in Montreal when I was with Anaheim because, it was a road city for us. But when I was playing with Ottawa, we would take the train in, you have dinner and you play and then you leave because we're so close. So never really got to experience Montreal the way other guys did. Vancouver and Nashville were always my 2 favorites for sure.
Awesome.
That's funny. You hear the stories, and I was able to pick out 2 of his 3 favorites just by naming them.
Oh yeah,
the reputations, they're accurate.
They're good. And I like the cities that felt smaller. Vancouver, I don't know if it fits that bill, but Nashville certainly does. I always hated New York and Chicago. They were just too big and too much going on and too spread out. I was like, I liked Nashville because you got 1 block of being a degenerate, and then you could get out of there.
Yeah. Once you're done with Broadway, you can get the H out of there and go
Exactly.
home.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
I mean, I've heard Nashville's pretty fun. I've never
Nashville's
been.
awesome. So great.
I'm more of a Vegas guy. I like to go to Vegas and, party there.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, you weren't in the league when Vegas was around.
No, I was there. Oh yeah.
You were in the league.
Yeah. 3 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple lost nights in Vegas.
That's funny.
Okay. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
You forget how long Vegas has been.
It is. It feels like just yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know your last year was 2020, 2021, and Vegas in 2018. So
they already had a final appearance, Frank.
It slipped my mind because we've had conversations about this, and about other things. How I just lose track of time, and it just
100%.
5 years feels like a year. So
yeah,
very much so.
But anyway, so Yeah. Any playoff matchups you're excited about? I know Toronto and Tampa Bay are locked in right now for a first round matchup, and I don't know about any
That's
other.
the only one that's a complete lock. It
I was
can't change
gonna say,
whatsoever.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think any others are locked up. But
I would-
anything you'd be excited to see maybe in the first round? Or
Man, to me, that's the series to watch. And it just felt like it was going to happen. You know what? We knew it was going to happen months ago, basically. And I'm very intrigued about the matchup because I think it's finally Toronto's time to get past that first round. But I just hate for the fact that they got to play Tampa, the two really, really good teams right out of the gate. I thought last year's series was very, very entertaining going to 7. So I think that is absolutely one that I won't miss a game on. It does look like Jersey and the Rangers are going to play each other. So I like that. I don't know if that will stay the same. I guess no, that looks like it should be locked up, eh? Pretty close to.
It's close. The Devils would have to pretty much win out, and the Canes would have to lose that extra game that they have.
Yeah, so it's
locked up.
It's locked up. But all that being said, I really, really want to watch that series, New York and the Devils. I love the proximity. I love the fact that the city would be on, both cities would be really, really well involved. And I like both teams' game. That'd be a really good offensive series to watch.
There's some potential good Western matchups too that I'm looking at right here.
Whoever is the 2-3 in the Central is going to be just a dogfight, I think. Like if Dallas plays Minnesota or if Colorado plays one of those two, like just that's going to be quality hockey.
It's not going to happen in the first round, but it'd be pretty cool if Vegas were to play Seattle. Get that rivalry heated up before the Winter Classic next
year. Original 32.
I like that. I'm also, they had a good series last year, Edmonton and LA, and I'd like to see LA find a way to win a series because I think that they came on strong towards the end, and I'd like to see Anjay and those guys have a good couple runs before they run out of time as well. But I like the way that they play against Edmonton. I like that matchup. That Connor's gonna do Connor things. So is Leon. But outside of that, LA's got a lot of depth out there, and they're a dangerous team going into the playoffs, I think.
Well, as a former player, I have a question about Connor. So Connor's amazing. I think he's the best player. He's the most skilled player ever. It's hard to reach that apex of Gretzky because he's not going to come close in points because you just can't come close in points anymore. Yeah. But there's no 200, 150. We're all going to lose our minds when he gets 2 more points over this weekend, and he reaches 150, and that probably won't happen again, or it might for him only.
Yeah.
Do you hate though that people look at that and they're like, "Oh, we give Connor the Hart Trophy. It's the trophy that's player most valuable to his team." I still think the Oilers would be a pretty good team. Like the Oilers have outstanding talent all over the place. And then I look at what Matty Tkachuk is doing in Florida, and I'm like, that team would probably be like dog shit if he wasn't there.
Yeah, he's dragging those guys into the fight every night and willing them in on his own. But man, I don't like that it's a stats-based award, and I know the writers go that way. I don't know if you look across the league. I don't know that I can find anybody more valuable to his team than him, though. Because if you take him off that team, Leon's going to put up 100.
Yeah.
Nuge is going to put up 80. But you're not going to be in a conversation to be in the playoffs with that team without him, I don't think.
That's fair.
I think he's taken over. There was a stretch not long ago that he just absolutely, he put the team on his back for 4 or 5 games, and he does it a lot. But those 4 or 5 games I actually watched more often than I get to stay up late for those games. And I thought he was on another level. And I remember thinking to myself, this team would be absolutely lost if he wasn't on the ice.
Yeah, it's my honest opinion. I don't think the Oilers win a series without him.
No,
I think the Kings are going to beat him. I picked the Kings last year to beat him, and that was with McDavid.
Yeah,
I think he brings such an aspect to the Edmonton Oilers that it's just hard to argue not giving him the Hart Trophy. I like you said, Vin, I know there's Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins, 2 other 100-point scorers, and Bobby said the same thing. Like Draisaitl would still probably put up 100, but it's so hard not to grant him that title of the most valuable player to his team.
Bobby, you were in the East for most of the end of your career while he was in the league. Did you get to play against him though? And was there a point where he did something crazy and you're like, "Oh, I just got dusted by McDusty"?
Not me individually, thankfully. Coaches weren't putting me on the ice with my feet against him very often. So yeah, especially as I got older, the slippers didn't work like they used to. But I remember exactly one time he took 3 strides and beat 4 guys. And just the only guy that I could ever say that really picked up speed and was not as fast as him was Teemu Selanne. And Teemu had a way of going faster off the first 3 strides because of his explosiveness than a lot of guys, and he found a way to pick up speed on his edges. But it wasn't until I saw Connor do that I just was like, I am outclassed here by by a player that in that much speed. It was otherworldly. So and then for me, watching him pick up the puck, you're like, get 5 guys above him every time he touches it. And hope that he doesn't hang 2. You can live with him getting 1, but if he gets 2, then you're off to the races and he could have 5.
Yeah, it's probably, well, it's not probably, it's way different seeing him on the ice in person when you were playing against him. I can't imagine what that looks like because it looks amazing on TV, but it's probably even greater when it happens like right there in front of you on the ice. So I can't imagine that.
I'll tell you this. We were talking about it not long ago. I can't remember the context of it, but we were talking about the fact that you're talking to, and I'm speaking of players in the league, you're talking to the best players in the world, the fastest skaters in the world, the best puck handlers in the world, and every single one of them is coming up and saying, can't touch that guy, right? It's just the respect level of, because of the 20 different ways he can beat you is through the roof. It's like, I mean, we're talking about, it's a LeBron James situation in the NBA right now, right? It's just, he's that far ahead of everybody else in every category.
Yeah, for sure. You made me think of one more question that I wanted to ask you. When we talk about McDavid, and we haven't seen McDavid play for Team Canada yet on Best on Best. And I think that's atrocious. We haven't seen Austin Matthews play Best on Best. And I know we got the Kachuk brothers now, and the Hughes are probably going to have some impact on the Olympics when they come around now. When I think of Team USA, the Matthews Hughes 1-2 punch down the middle, and then you could, if all things go right, have both brothers on defense. Like, it just is unbelievable what they could come up with. Are you, as a former Olympian yourself, annoyed with how this has all gone down? And are you like begging, like, please give me a World Cup of hockey?
Yes. As much as everybody else is, and probably more so. I think we're wasting primes of some of the best players that have come through our game in a long period of time. And some of it always comes down to financial bullshit, doesn't it? It's a shame.
About the money.
And then, you know what, on top of it, there was a major setback with COVID, and we lost some stuff, and that's the way of the world. Everybody's complaining about something from COVID and the after effects, but at the same time, we as, I guess I'm in that category now, as fans, you want to see the best players play the best players. And I couldn't imagine seeing a 1-2 punch. You got McKinnon, and then you got McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and Bergeron as your centers if you make the team today, right? That's a scary. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah. There's some superstars that are going to get shafted. Like, you could make two Team Canada teams that would probably be golden runner up or there for runner up.
And that's the problem with me, is where you look at the landscape of what the World Cup would be. You have Canada, USA. Russia's always in the mix. Sweden, Finland can compete, but the drop off after those countries is just so deep or so vast. I'm sorry that I would like to see the competition deepened by putting another international squad together. Take Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Slovenia, if you're going to bring Kopitar in, whatever. Make a strong 8th team to compete, not just to be there to run over, but to compete. I would love to see another under 23 team. I thought that was brilliant. So there's so many unique ways to do it. You have to find a way to get it done.
Team Europe made it to the final, and Team Under 23 and Team North America, they were the most exciting team of the bunch.
By far, it was incredible.
And we saw in the World Baseball Classic, guys like Xander Bogaerts and stuff getting to play for Team Israel, or countries they're not actually from because of different rules and they could do some cool stuff, and I'm with you on that. Frank, do you have anything else for Bobby?
Yeah, I just want to know. So all this time we've talked with you here today, it seems like, I thought it was just the opposite, but it seems like you have more of a soft spot for Ottawa than you have Anaheim, which I thought it'd be Anaheim because of you were drafted by them and you started your career with them. But do you have a soft spot for Anaheim to get Connor Bedard?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and you know what? I think I have a soft spot because I'm so far. I'm so far removed from my Anaheim days, and I have a soft spot for Ottawa because I cover them, and I've watched them go through the highs and lows this year. And Anaheim's an afterthought just because of the time change most nights, and they're not a very exciting team to watch. They really aren't.
No, unless Zegras is on the ice.
Exactly. So, I'm not very optimistic about their future. I think they got some good players, but they got a lot of work to do. And I like Pat Verbeek. I think he's going to do a really good job there. But it's going to take 3-4 years for him to make his imprint on that team and get his guys in and things like that. So, I think I'm more partial to Ottawa just because of the time frame that I was there, and I know a lot of the players still firsthand. I only know John Gibson from Hello and Cam Fowler from being with out there, and that's about it anymore.
For sure. Well, hopefully all those teams end up having some success because I do think it's better when every team in the league has something to cheer on. And when I saw the other day that Zegras was born in 2001 and he didn't know what a VHS tape was, I wanted to just cut everything out of my life away and just be done. Like that annoyed me.
Yeah, I think Trevor probably knows what a VHS tape is. I think I think Trevor knows exactly where a camera is at all times.
That's fair. That's fair.
I love the kid though. I love the way he plays.
Me too. Great hands, nice hair, handsome. He's just got it all going.
Yeah.
We got to find something wrong with Trevor Zegras so we can make fun of him for something.
The NHL is doing a hell of a job marketing him, though. I will give him that.
Absolutely. Cover of the video game and all that. So, Bobby, we can't thank you enough for coming on our show. This has been an absolute pleasure. You've given us so much of your time. Promote yourself. Promote what you're doing with your podcast. Tell everyone why they should listen to it.
If you're a Sens fan, the reasons speak for themselves. We're covering the Sens. We're going to get out of the Sens stuff a little more here going forward because of the playoffs and the implications and all the series. So we got a good thing going. We're live usually most Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on YouTube at Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, Jason York, and myself. And we're having a lot of fun. The show's been off the rails because we've been talking more Masters than hockey. So if you like golf, listen on Monday. We'll be live again. But no, I appreciate it, guys. It was a great time. Hope you guys enjoy the Easter holiday and the weekend and the Masters tournament. I got the Masters tournament on right here. I'm never that far away.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm all into all sports just as well. So I'm with you on that. I appreciate it. We'd love to have you back sometime. Thank you very much for coming on. And Frank, I think that's it for Bobby Ryan. Thank you very much. And we would like to thank you again. We would like to send you to period number 2. Welcome to period 2. I forgot to send it to period 1 again with a guest, Frank.
I know, and I had that in my head. I'm like, he's not going to. I knew before you weren't going to send it to period 1.
Then why wouldn't you say something?
Because I didn't know if you wanted to or not. I didn't want to cut you off. You gave your whole spiel. I'm not in the middle of you saying, we got a special guest today. I'm not going to say Vince, period 1. Like, just let him finish.
That's funny. Well, that was period 1 with Bobby Ryan. What'd you think?
It was very fun to talk to him because we talked to John Scott. So we've talked to a former NHL player before, but we've never talked to a former NHL player that was drafted second.
Bobby Ryan probably had more games in one season than John Scott had in his career.
Exactly. So
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, I know, obviously, but it's just it was very unique to have a guest of his caliber on our show because we've never had it before.
Absolutely. That was fun. I love, though, my favorite part of the interview, Frank, there were 2. My first favorite part was that I nailed how much fun Vancouver, Nashville, and Montreal are. And if you go there, you're having a time. Oh, man. Maybe when I get married, my bachelor party, I think I want to have it in Montreal. I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
I honestly think that that's going to be a possible destination. Like, I want to go to Montreal really bad. And I just think a weekend there with the boys, go to a Habs game. Oh, sign me up. Frank, there was some other things that went on in the NHL news over the last week or so. Oh, I wanted to tell you the other thing I loved most from the interview, though. The absolute hard-on you got when he said that Jonathan Toews was a pain in the ass to play against. Describe what that felt like to me.
Oh, it felt amazing because, a lot of people, I think, look at Jonathan Toews now, and they don't think of what he's done his whole career. And I think, like, Jonathan Toews has kind of got a bad reputation now. It's like, Jonathan Toews kind of stinks. I think there's a recency bias there. So the fact that he just said Taves was a pain in the ass to play against. It just made me feel good because deep down I know how good Taves is, and that's my boy. He's my favorite player to ever play in the NHL, and it felt good.
Taves was amazing. And when Taves retires, nobody's going to question that. There's not a single person that's going to question. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. They'll retire his number. I mean, nobody's going to really question Taves' greatness, I think. Katie kind of made me regret not asking him to rank Philly, Anaheim, and whoever for the number 1 overall pick for Bedard. You think he would take Philly over?
No, I think he'd take Anaheim because I asked him if there was a soft spot for Anaheim for Bedard, and he said yeah.
Yeah.
He said yeah.
If he went to Philly, I would choke myself, I think.
He'd want him to go to Anaheim, I think.
Yeah, and I'm watching the Blue Jackets play the Devils yesterday, and those guys are such pricks too. I think if he went to Columbus, I think I would choke myself. I do not want Bedard to go to the East. I would sign up for him to go to.
Like, kind of suck if he was in Coyotes too, because he'd have to play in that arena.
That's cool though. That's cool. I've watched games there. That's fun. It's fun. They like it. Those fans are off the hook.
Yeah, so the NHL is going to lose money because you're only going to have 5,000 people able to go see them every night.
You know what's funny though? Because they only hold so many fans. Because they only hold so many fans, they're like near the top of NHL attendance in terms of percent.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
It's really funny. Yeah, because I can just invite all my high school friends out for a game and we could fill the rink.
It's ridiculous.
Frank, that's really funny. We yesterday had the Frozen Four begin. And that's where I want to start period number 2. Minnesota played BU. And I told you on last week's show, don't underestimate Quinnipiac. All 4 of these teams are here for a reason. 10, 15 years ago, Quinnipiac sucked. They weren't a shit for a hockey market.
Wait, who are we talking about? You said Minnesota played BU, and then you just jumped the gun.
And then I said Quinnipiac played Michigan. I said both.
Oh, I didn't hear the Michigan.
Yeah, and I said both. And we'll get to both matchups, and we'll probably start with Minnesota. But I just want to say about my guys at Quinnipiac, and I bet on Michigan. I lost. I thought Michigan was going to win, but I in no way ever thought Quinnipiac was like they're just not a loser program anymore. They could win the Natty any given year, and I truly believe that. They have great facilities. They have outstanding coaching staffs. Their coach was the coach of Team USA in the World Juniors. And their coach was out there yesterday telling people Luke Hughes can play in the NHL right now. I'm happy he chose to play college hockey this year, even though he might kick our ass tonight. I got to coach him in the World Juniors. And then he ended up going out there with his balls. And they beat Michigan in the second game. But let's start with the first game. Logan Cooley, Matthew Nyes, Jimmy Snuggerud. I like Snuggerud better. Bucci was calling him Snuggerud, but we're going to call him Snuggerud. Bucci, friend of the program. It reads like Snuggerud for sure. They were outstanding, Frank. I think Nyes will play for the Leafs as soon as next season. Snuggerud will be a Blue soon, and Logan Cooley might be a Coyote next week.
I mean, there was no surprises in this game, really. I mean, it was tied after 2 periods. It looked like it was going to be a pretty close game.
Yeah, Drew Commesso was amazing.
Where maybe I love Drew Commesso. Where maybe Boston University is going to pull one out of the bag, right? But there's one name you forgot to mention, and he was perhaps the biggest face of this game, and that's Luke Mittelstadt, who scored 2 goals a minute and 49 seconds apart to give him a 4-2 lead in the third. So if it's not for him, who knows what happens? Maybe you sneaks one out here. And then Logan Cooley pots 2 empty netters. Was it 2? Yeah, he had 2 empty netters. So, yeah, if it was Luke Mittelstadt, what an athlete. He was the turning point in this game.
Yeah, Logan Cooley is probably the best player in college hockey this season. It was either him or Luke Hughes. I think Logan Cooley, if I'm ranking the NHL prospects that haven't played in the NHL, 1 to 10, Logan Cooley comes in at 1. And I would probably put Luke Hughes too. Nemec would be in my top 5. The kid from Nashville would be up there. Columbus has a couple guys, but this kid, Cooley's amazing. But is Luke Mittelstadt, is he related to Casey Mittelstadt?
That I have no idea. I would just assume so because Mittelstadt's such a rare last name.
And he played college hockey, and he was drafted when we were there in Chicago.
I would say that they're probably related if I had to guess. Somebody
Yeah.
could do research on that,
I got you.
but I would almost say for sure that they're related. And now, because Minnesota won and advanced to the national championship, it'll be the 6th time they're playing for the national championship. And it's actually, oddly enough, the first national championship they'll compete in since 2003. It's been 20 years since Minnesota's had the chance to play for the national championship.
That's crazy. Did you know the Michigan goal?
Mm-hmm.
That was against Minnesota all those years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Luke Middlestat is related to Casey Middlestat. So
Figured.
that is locked in.
When you
I
got a
figured
last
too.
name like Middlestat, it's very rare. Probably.
It's not Smith.
Yeah, so I kind of assumed they were related.
Yeah, and I believe Casey also went to Minnesota, if I remember correctly. I can actually just click on his name right here and lock in that little bit of fact as well. If
Probably did, right?
I know he's a Minnesota boy, like they're both from Minnesota. Like I did know that. Yes, he did go to the University of Minnesota for 1 year, where he was a very good player, became a first-round pick by the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, played World Juniors, had 11 points in 7 World Junior games. Holy shit. Unbelievable run for him. And he's having a pretty good year this year. After looking like he wasn't, I was never going to use the B word for Casey Middlestat, but it took him a minute to become a solid NHL contributor. And this year he's got, huh?
You think Luke's better?
It's hard to say. He's better than a 50-point NHL player. He could go on to be. And I think Casey has another level to get to too. So you never know.
You're right.
Unless you're talking about like absolute S tier players, like superstars, like Logan Cooley or like Luke Hughes, it's hard to project. Like those guys could be hit or miss in the NHL, where like you're pretty confident Logan Cooley and Luke Hughes are going to be good NHL players relatively quickly.
Absolutely.
So, and then in the other game, the big upset, Quinnipiac beats Michigan, ruined my Hughes parlay that would have hit if Michigan would have won.
I'd say stunner. I'd say they stunned Michigan. A lot of people backed Michigan here.
I know, I did too. I backed Michigan too, but I'll tell you what. I
have a reason why. Go ahead, tell me.
I was listening to Spittin' Chicklets. We touched on Ryan Whitney with Bobby Ryan. Grinelli, Michael Grinelli. He's a big college hockey guy, and I get a lot of my college hockey information from him and the blogs. He had a future on Quinnipiac preseason, and he was so confident that they were going to beat Michigan. It was like not a doubt in his mind. And he was right. I know. He's going to cash in on this big ticket if they listen, I'm going to pick Minnesota. I might even throw a little change on him.
Yeah,
I will not be surprised if Quinnipiac wins. Go ahead. Well,
I think the reason why so many people backed Michigan here is because Quinnipiac never have beaten Michigan in program history. They were 0 for 5, and until something like that happens, the doubters are going to doubt. It's kind of like the way I feel about the Maple Leafs. I'm going to keep doubting on the Maple Leafs until it happens, right? So, and I think a lot of people felt the same way with Michigan here. And, Michigan's the bigger school. They're ranked higher. So, I mean, there's good reason as to why a lot of people thought Michigan was going to win. But, hey, it was tied 2-2 after the second period as well, much like the Minnesota-Boston game. And then goals by Sam Lipkin, Zach Metza, and Ethan DeJong in the third period propelled Quinnipiac to the stunner. Big night also for Jacob Keelan. He had 2 goals, 1 assist. He scored both first period goals. He was a big factor, much like Middlestat was in the Minnesota game. But ultimately why Quinnipiac prevailed is because they were the better team 5-on-5. They were the better overall team that night. Both teams went 0 for 3 on the power play. So it came down to who's the better 5-on-5 team that night. And that night it was Quinnipiac. So congrats to them. I think it's going to be a very entertaining final, but I think Minnesota's going to pull away late. I got Minnesota. Do you want me to give my prediction? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, you can give your prediction. This is our last show before the game, and we're going to watch it together. It'll be on one of the TVs.
Right. So
lay it on me, pal.
This game has the vibe of UConn versus San Diego State national championship vibes to me, where San Diego State is Quinnipiac and UConn is Minnesota, where San Diego State, they created those upsets. They got to the championship, kind of like Quinnipiac. They created those upsets, got to the championship. But I think Minnesota here is going to be too strong, like UConn was. UConn won by double digits. I think Minnesota pulls away and kind of wins in a semi blowout of like 5-2. I really do. I think it might be close in the beginning, but I really think the better team's gonna prevail, and you're gonna see it in a dominant way.
Very interesting. I got Quinnipiac.
Wow.
I think they're going to win the championship for the first time in program history. And I'm saying that not because I'm rooting for that. I want Quinnipiac to win. And I'm not going to, like, obviously I know Minnesota's capable of winning. I guess if I had, like, I might put some money on Minnesota just for the value, and I might parlay it with the Devils, or, because they're going to be an underdog against the Bruins. Even though McAvoy and Krejci aren't playing, like, I honestly think there's value on the Devils too. Just talking betting, but I like Quinnipiac, and I just hope it's an entertaining game. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for is a really good game. I'm gonna say Quinnipiac wins the game in overtime, 4-3. So that's gonna be where I go. Even though, like, this is one of those games where I reserve the right to not be clowned if I'm wrong, because it's not one of those I guarantee that this is going to happen type of games. I'm just rooting for Quinnipiac. I want to see them win. Everyone deserves a natty. And they've been so good.
I root for the underdog, but in my heart and my brain, it says Minnesota.
Tell me this. Do you believe in fate?
Yeah.
They just feel like a team of destiny. And yesterday when they had that big game, do you know who scored the first goal of the Colorado Avalanche game yesterday?
Was it Rantanen?
No, even though Rantanen had a hat trick.
Who was it?
It was Devin Taves, the best Quinnipiac alumni in the NHL right now. Like, and he's a good defenseman. He's a really good defenseman. And he's part of the reason Colorado's so good, because they have all these great defensemen. And outside of Cale Makar, they can all make the claim as the number 2. I don't know. It just feels like he was so juiced about Quinnipiac winning that he went out and scored a goal. That's awesome.
It just seems like every time a team has that big win, the next game they come out just a giant letdown, right?
Yeah, there were a couple times in March Madness this year where a team pulled off a big upset, and then they went on to win their second game.
Well, like Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't a big upset.
Yeah.
It's as they went down the line and they started beating top level 1 seeds, 2 seeds, then it started to become.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you know Minnesota or Michigan mute the TV, Michigan fans? They have lost in the semifinal in football and hockey each of the last 2 seasons.
It's rough. They're
rough time.
Of NCAA hockey.
Yeah, except for this year, the Leafs are going to blow the doors off everyone they play.
We talk about that.
Yeah, which be light on your predictions, because we do have a playoff prediction show. Well, this is the second to last. Yeah, this is the second to last show before playoff prediction. So yeah, you can pretty much say whatever you want. Actually,
well, I mean, I don't. That's my only prediction is that series, because, like we said, nothing else is really locked up.
Yeah, Frank. And speaking of nothing being locked up, the Devils are knock, knock, knocking on Metro's door. They're 1 point out. They have played 1 extra game. I have hope. You probably don't, because you're a hater. You're a hater.
Hope.
And you're gonna pick the freaking Rangers in the first round too, I bet.
No.
But I don't know. I like Carolina. They don't score anymore, and they don't have Svechnikov. They went out there and let Nashville shut them out. Like, why can't the Devils win the Metro if they're 1 point back?
Bobby agrees with me. He thinks the Hurricanes are coming out of the Metro. I completely agree. I think right now, I mean, the Devils are right there. When you look at it, 1 point behind, it's like, yeah, here we go. I mean, the Devils are right there. However, there's going to be another example down the line why a game in hand is just so important, that extra game they have. And the Devils have been playing great. They've been playing fantastic hockey. 2 huge statement wins, a 5-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins, and a team they need to beat, those bottom feeders like the Columbus Blue Jackets, they come out and beat them 8-1. That's the way you're supposed to
They
handle it.
dominate bad. Even
That's-
Joey Parisi said that, complimented them yesterday, because the Bruins haven't even done that quite the same.
That's the type of games you have to have against those bottom feeding teams. Something hint that Calgary didn't do against the Blackhawks. But anyway,
That was bad for both teams. Wrote an article about that.
But
Dumb.
the Devils have been playing great hockey, right? But now let's flip the script. The Hurricanes have the easier remaining schedule. Their remaining games are going to Buffalo, then they're going to Ottawa. They'll come home to play Detroit, and then they'll end in Florida, where the Devils will go to Boston. Tough game. They'll play Buffalo. Buffalo will be competitive, and then they end in Washington, which that's not easy either. Plus, I mean, you have the disadvantage of not having a game in hand played. Now, the Hurricanes, the reason why I say the Hurricanes schedule is a lot easier, which if you didn't just already know by the teams we named, they also haven't lost to Buffalo or Ottawa all season. So those are 2 of the remaining 4 games who they've dominated all season, which obviously that's going to, in my eyes, going to help them out a little bit, because I say when you own a team, you own a team. I mean, there was that stretch where the Hawks beat like Columbus, or no, I think it was the other way around. The Hawks couldn't beat Columbus, or they beat Columbus like 5 years in a row. It was something ridiculous. So I say when you own a team, you own a team. And right now, the fate's out of the Devils' hands. I hate when a team doesn't own their own fate. Devils could win out and they might not make it in, because it's all up to Carolina, because they have that extra point in game in hand. So I don't like when the fate is not in your own team's hands. So I give the edge to the Hurricanes here. I'm sorry, VP. Anything could happen.
I agree. I mean, deep down inside, I agree. It's hard to make up a point with 3 games left. We've talked about that. We've talked about that, for years on this show. You know, when you're in December and you're down 5 points in the standings, it's hard to come back from that. It doesn't seem like a lot. Like when the Hawks went 0-9-0 to start the season, they hired Luke Richardson, or not Luke Richardson. They hired what the frick was his name? Derek King. The King. I remember the King. They hired Derek King. They won 3 in a row, and people are like, the Hawks are going to end up making the playoffs, even though the freaking starting 0-9 put them in like a 10-point, deficit of the playoff line. I'm like, there's no chance they make the playoffs. They could go 500 the rest of the way. They could go 600 the rest of the way and still miss playoffs. And, got some heat for that, but it ended up being true because they were actually pretty decent, in the second half of that season. And thank God they didn't win the draft lottery last year. And I told you that. That's another thing. You can't win the draft lottery this year. Shane Wright's an okay player. Then Slavkovsky, whoever you would say, ain't nobody. But imagine if Columbus had Imagine if Columbus had the first and third best odds to win Bedard. They'd be getting Bedard and Fantilli this year. If the Hawks would have won the lottery last year. Oh, nasty. Nasty to think about. Thank God I was right on that. Because man, if the Hawks were thinking about handing over their unprotected first round pick this year to Columbus, bleh.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I can. And I almost want to throw up thinking about it. But we'll see if the Devils are able to pull that off. I know you've been locked and loaded waiting to, talk about this topic because you haven't watched the Lightning at all in the last month.
Well, don't
and
worry.
Seen how
Not
just
at all.
absolutely atrocious they've been in the second half of this season. Like, they're lucky to even be making playoffs in a non-wild card spot. The Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Toronto Maple Leafs are locked in as playoff opponents for the first round. It is the only currently locked in playoff series entering the weekend. I know you have some freaking thoughts on it.
Listen, all I'm saying is, yes, I realize the Lightning have been stone cold. I understand that. It's been bright and sunny. There's been no lightning storms lately. I get it, okay? But let's not forget, this is a team with 96 points on the verge of hitting the century mark.
They were outstanding in the first half.
And they're 17 games over 500. I mean, just that can't go unnoticed.
No.
And not to mention,
And they're still in third place.
Vasilevsky has a career goals against in the playoffs of 230 and a career save percentage of 923 in the playoffs when games are supposed to be harder to win. This is a team that stands on their head. They're completely different, a different mentality going into the playoffs. And not only that, they're used to this. We're used to the Tampa Bay Lightning laying low and winning a Stanley Cup or dominating in the playoffs. I mean, what was it? Tampa Bay, where we made that comment where Joey's like, "Oh, Tampa Bay, they're having a rough year this year." Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Last year, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh," and we even said, "Be careful." I mean, it's early in the season. Teams need like a month to get started on the right foot. And look what happened. They make it to the conference finals again. I mean, this is a team that can't be overlooked at all. And I remember last week you said you could see Toronto winning in 4 or 5, which to me is blasphemy. Because you're not giving this team enough credit at all. Unbelievable. I mean, the stuff that just unbelievable.
I would pick any of the wild card teams over Tampa Bay in a 7-game series.
You think they could get swept?
Yeah.
No. To me, it's impossible. I would never pick it either in a bracket.
I wouldn't pick it. I would pick 5 or 6. I have enough respect.
4 or 5. Even 5 is atrocious.
I think when I have money on the line in a bracket, I think betting 6 is like the obvious choice for pretty much every series. I mean, picking 6 is like chalk. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, dude, I said it last week about the Wild. Go into Colorado and put your balls on the table and beat the Colorado Avalanche. And they did. They beat Colorado just like I said they would last week. And it's time for the Toronto Maple Balls to freaking be put on the table, and you go to the playoffs. You host the first 2 games. You dummy the Lightning in both of them. You take one of the 2 at Amalie Arena, and you go back to Tampa Bay for Game 5, and you win the series. Your first playoff series victory for the first time since 2004. The Toronto Maple Leafs.
At least you're giving the Lightning a game, because last week you were talking about a sweep. So
it wouldn't shock me at all. The Lightning stink. They have Hall of Famers at every position, but they're worn down. Listen, they could win the Cup again next year. They need a summer off. They need a summer off. They'll be done by the end of April, and it'll be their first time not playing hockey in May since frickin' before the pandemic.
So what's the excuse when Toronto loses?
If Toronto loses,
I don't, even if it goes 7 games, I could see the headline now. I'm playing this scenario out in my head.
Like last year,
Toronto loses another 1-goal game in Game 7. That's the excuse. I'm tired of that. They can't win. They can't win.
If the Maple Leafs lose in the first round again, I don't care how this time. Last year I did care, and I still care.
I don't want
They went to the Cup. The Lightning went to the Cup. The Leafs would have went to the Cup if they beat frickin' the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 7.
I don't want that excuse this year.
You don't get it this year.
Even if they go to the Cup,
I know.
Losing Game 7, I want no excuse.
I agree. That this year, I stand by all my statements from last year. I stand by all of them. I'll take those to my grave. This year, there's no excuse. You traded for Ryan O'Reilly. So 1, 2, 3 down the middle. You're going Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Ryan O'Reilly. Oh, who are your wingers? Oh, just some guys named William Nylander and Mitch Marner who are both having career years. They better win in the first round, and I think they will. And if they don't, I don't care if they lose. I don't care if Austin Matthews hits the post and Victor Hedman picks up the rebound, shoves it up the ice to Steven Stamkos, and he buries the game winner in overtime of Game 7. I don't care if they were that close to winning the series. I will say it was a major F-up if they lose in the first round to the Tampa Bay Lightning, no matter the circumstance. Last year, they gained valuable experience by that. I think they were the 2 best teams in the league competing in the first round last year. It was bullshit that they were competing in the first round. I would have taken either of them over the Florida Panthers in the second round, and you would have too, because if the Leafs finally got rid of that first round stink, you have no reason to pick against them in the second round, right? Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, probably.
But I mean, Jesus, they better frickin' win in the playoffs this year. If they don't reach the second round, they're cursed. They're cursed.
They may never win a first series. So if they lose this year, they're done. That's
it. If they lose in the first round, Dubas is gone.
Because there might not be a better team for them to win with them.
Kyle, no, absolutely.
So if it's not this year, they ain't winning anything.
Leafs fans, I don't care what you say. Austin Matthews is the best player you've ever had. Don't give me Mats Sundin. Don't give me, whoever it is you're going to try and give me. The greatest player in Toronto Maple Leafs history is Austin Emmanuel Matthews. And you're not going to tell me his middle name's not actually Emmanuel, by the way.
I didn't think so, but
and Dubas, they didn't give Dubas a contract. The GM for beyond this year. They fire him. It wouldn't be firing. They just wouldn't be bringing him back. Dubas kind of has it nice. He either gets a contract or extension or walks as a free agent. He's not going to get fired, even though people will see it as getting fired if they don't bring him back. I think they can Sheldon Keefe if they lose in the first round, their coach. They probably fire all the assistants, and one of Marner or Nylander are gone if they lose in the first round. They will make a major seismic change to the roster if they lose in the first round again. There is no doubt in my mind about it. Like they added Jake McCabe's a really good. He's their number 4. He's number 2 on a lot of teams. I'm just telling you, Frank. The Leafs have everything on the line this year, and I have nothing but reason to believe that they'll get it done. If they don't get it done, and maybe everything I'm talking about just puts too much pressure on them. But I'm telling you, the Leafs better win. They better beat the Lightning.
I mean,
all those guys might get canned if they don't win the cup, to be honest with you. When you look at that roster and you see Matt Murray and Samsonov playing as well as they've played this season, it's like, okay, the Leafs got some goaltending. Their defense with Morgan Rielly, Jake McCabe, Liljegren, they got some really good defensemen on that team, and then their forward unit is stacked. It's so good. Their third line is as good as it's ever been. They don't got 90-year-old Wayne Simmons playing for them anymore. They went and got Ryan O'Reilly, Ryan O'Reilly's not the same player that he was like 5, but he's a really good player. Ryan O'Reilly reminds me of Taves like 2 years ago. Just a solid, good centerman that has so much experience.
Absolutely.
And they got Pierre Engvall. Matthew Bunting is a really good player. There was one other big name they traded for that I was excited about for them. Do they have Lafferty now? They have Lafferty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Lafferty. The Maple Leafs better win. They better win.
It would be hilarious if they lost in like 5.
That would be kind of funny because I'm not a Maple. People probably think I'm a Maple Leafs diehard. The only team I'm like truly like as passionate about is like where it'll ruin my life if they lose is the Devils. But the Devils don't have that kind of pressure on them this year. If they lose in the first round of the Rangers this year, people are going to be like, "Oh, well, that was a really nice season for the Devils." See you next year, Jack Hughes, who's still only 22 years old coming into the year.
I know damn well if the Devils were playing the Leafs in the first round, you'd be hoping the Leafs lose.
I don't think the Devils would win a playoff series against the Leafs.
But you would be hoping they would lose.
Oh, of course I would. All my narratives go by the wayside. All my biases and, our shtick on the show is us arguing about the Leafs. Every shtick, every bias, every act we put on here goes by the wayside when it comes to the Devils. I hope the Devils destroy everyone. If I was on the opposing team of the Devils, I'd want to lose. So that's honestly
just let one in.
That's a question I'll ask Bobby Ryan if we ever give him back. Like, was there a side like you were a Flyers diehard? What was it like first time playing them? I wouldn't want to score a goal against the Devils. I'd want them to win. I'd want them to beat me.
But maybe you want to because they might want you on their team.
That's true.
They're like, wow, this kid dominates us. Instead of having to play against them, let's just add him. Let's go.
If you can't beat them, add them.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah. Well, that's Leafs Lightning. Frank, don't you know how fun hockey would be, though, if the Leafs made it that far?
No.
The Leafs are like the Cowboys of the NHL. Like, even though nobody likes them, people can't stop talking about them. I didn't say you have attachment, but you can't stop talking about them. Nobody could stop talking about them.
Yeah.
They are at the headline. They're at the forefront of every hockey conversation, no matter where they are in the standings, just like the Dallas Cowboys.
Even if it's bad? Like, I'd rather nobody talk. Like, if somebody's going to talk bad about me, I'd rather just not talk at all.
No, but I do think the Leafs are so deep in everyone's head that people just can't help it but to talk about the Leafs, good or
I
bad.
mean, I think they're deep in their own head because they can't win.
Dude, Austin Matthews better shut people like you up. I swear. If they don't, I'll be out on them. I'll be out on them. They're not going to be as good next year as they are this year.
What
no
I'm
shit.
saying is that they haven't won is not that's fact. That's not.
I'm not shitting on your opinion at all.
No, I know.
The
but
only
it's
opinion you have I shit on is the Ovechkin one. That's
Yeah,
the only
but
one I think you're a
not
clown
an
on.
opinion I have. It's fact. They haven't won.
No, they have not won. And if they don't win again, you probably agree with this. They're not going to be as good next year as they are
No,
this
this is the best Leafs team that they had. So if they can't win now, it's
year. I think it's the best Leafs team ever.
wow.
Ever.
I don't know. It's tough.
They're
'cause
probably going to break their own franchise. Are they going to break their own franchise? I think their franchise points record was last year.
I don't know what it is.
But whatever last year's total is, but they didn't add Ryan O'Reilly last year. You know, they were relying on some other goofy goobers on their fourth line. You had guys like Spezza and, Wayne Train. That's not like that this year. It's just not like that this year. And freaking, who was the goal? Campbell? They had the goalie Campbell last year who got booted out of Edmonton by a rookie. Like, I don't know. This is the best Leafs team on paper ever. And if they lose in the first round to Tampa Bay, then Tampa Bay might as well go win the freaking cup again.
So their franchise points record's 115 last year.
Yeah, I knew they broke it last year. They're probably not going to touch that this year.
I don't know what they're
Or are they? Here, I got you on that. Standings. Oh, 103. Yeah, they're not going to touch that this year.
But still,
I would take this year's team over last year's team in a 7-game series.
And like I said, O'Reilly, that's a big ad. It's a big ad. It's not O'Reilly of the past, but he's still O'Reilly.
Yeah, 127 points by the Bruins. Jeebus Christ. Austin Matthews also isn't coming off a 60-goal season this year. He didn't empty the tank in the final week to reach 60. Austin Matthews is as fresh entering the playoffs as he's ever been.
It's true.
It's time for him to take over a series like we saw.
We're going to find out within the next month. So
I think they have a game in hand on Tampa Bay. If they win their game in hand, they're 9 points up on them.
So they're locked in to have home ice.
Oh, yeah. That's not even a question. They are in the league standing 6th. And they could be third, or they could be 5th. They have a game in hand on every team ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think second and third in the league is out of the question. But I don't know. The top of the Central is interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Colorado really found new life, and they're now my favorite to win the Central.
Yeah.
They just defeated Dallas the other night. That was kind of like the nail in the coffin. We talked about that game last week to keep an eye on. They dominated them. They won 5-2. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10. They're getting hot right now at the right time. And after being tied with Dallas, now I think they got a game in hand. I'm pretty sure. I don't have the standings pulled up, but I think they're tied at 100 points.
Yes, they are.
And
game in hand.
Yeah, so that.
Let me see the tiebreakers. Here, I gotta turn lock on my phone off. The screen lock. The tiebreaker belongs to Colorado by. Oh no, Dallas has the tiebreaker, and it's not going to be caught. Dallas has 36 regulation wins. Colorado has 33.
Oh yeah, that's not going to.
So if they end, and the reason Colorado's ahead right now is because they have one less game played. Colorado has to finish with more points.
But yeah, they've been hot though. They're hot right now at the right time. And
yes,
Rantanen's hat trick yesterday was insane. And
is he the quietest 50-goal scorer ever?
Absolutely.
I didn't know he was on 49.
I didn't either. And then
I look at this shit every single day.
And I look yesterday, and he's at 52. So
unreal player. The Devils passed on him for Zacha.
He's gonna be the quietest 100-point man because he's 2 points away from 100 points, and he's gonna surely get that. I could almost guarantee it.
Taking Zacha with Rantanen on the board is the quietest fuck up of all time.
Well, so now you're gonna have 200-point men on the team as well, and And then the way Minnesota's playing, they've just been sickening to watch. They've lost 3 straight. When you're in a division race, you can't afford to lose 3 straight this late in the year. So I have them out. I got Colorado coming out on top in the Central. I just like the way they've been playing lately. And with 3 games left or 4 games left, I forgot how many they got left. I'm taking Colorado to win the Central.
I'm with you. The Wild match up well against them. Dallas does not. And I'm not just saying that because I have a somewhat personal bias towards the Wild. I've seen it. That's just been the way all season long. The Wild have been able to beat Colorado. I think Wild lose to Dallas, though. I honestly think it's like a three little way there. And the matchup isn't going to favor the Wild in the first round. But I guess we'll see. The key is Kirill Kaprizov is back. He will make his return from injury, long-awaited return from injury, tomorrow. So that could be a big key in the playoffs too. If Kirill Kaprizov is at the height of his powers, and it's time for the Wild to not use Marc-Andre Fleury anymore. Gustafsson has been better, and it's not close. So
interesting to see the route they go in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would start Gustafsson in game 1 with no hesitation to go to Marc-Andre Fleury if need be. That's how I would handle it. And that's just how I feel about the top of the Central right now. I'm very much excited about this team. I've always called it the black and blue division because every team in the division is kind of hard hitting, like, strong on the puck, like different, like power forwards dominate that division more than any other division. Like there's no real Jack Hughes in the division. It's like Jason Robertson is a big boy, and like the Nate Dogg he gallops when he skates, and like he's a big power forward. Rantanen's huge. Kirill Kaprizov is huge. And the only team in the division that wears red is the Blackhawks, and they suck. So yeah, that's why I feel that way. We're looking at the wild card standings in the Eastern Conference. And there are 2 spots available for 3 teams. The Florida Panthers climbed their way into wild card 1 after looking like they were dead. The New York Islanders hold wild card 2, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are in 9th place in the conference. Buffalo would need to win out, and one of these 2 of these 3 teams would essentially need to lose out. So I put RIP Buffalo. They're not mathematically dead, but for all intents and purposes, I think they're dead. Even though I really love Buffalo. Like they've been one of my favorite teams to watch this season. And Tage Thompson's a dog, and Jack Quinn's a dog, and Dylan Cousins is a dog. Shout out Tom. I don't know. I don't know what you think of who gets in out of these 2, but as a Devils fan that's hoping for the Devils to win the Metro, I hope it's not the Islanders because it's the only team I think they would have trouble with in a 7-game series just because of matchup purposes.
I mean, it's very close. So Florida is another team that got hot at the right time. They've won 5 in a row. Like you said, we thought they're dead and out of the water, but here they are.
Kachuk is second in MVP if I ever vote.
And now it's like, are the Florida Panthers going to make the playoffs? They very well can. However, while they've been hot, their con here is they got to end 3 games in Washington. Then you're home against Toronto and home against Carolina. Those are a tough last 3 games to have. It's like, does the buck stop here at 5, or do you continue your hot winning ways against some of the best teams in the league? I don't know. On the other hand, the Islanders get a big 6-1 win against Tampa Bay, but they have an easier schedule to end the season out. They play Philadelphia in Washington, and then they're home against Montreal. So you figure you at least got to win against Montreal or Philadelphia if you want to make the playoffs. I mean, this is crunch time right now. And then you flip over to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh defeats Minnesota, a slumping Minnesota team 4-1, to keep them 1 point behind Florida and the Islanders, right? So now Pittsburgh ends their season in Detroit, home against Chicago, in Columbus. Another fairly easy final 3 games of the season. So while Florida seems like they have the advantage of all 3 teams in the race, they got the toughest final 3 games to end the year. And these other teams got to beat those bottom feeders that we're talking about. They got to be like the Devils and beat the Blue Jackets 8-1. I mean, you got to come out. Yeah, winning 2-1 in a game, you're still getting 2 points, but it's not right in the locker room. It's just the not right mentality to have. I mean, you got to come out and dominate these teams. You got to pick up both Islanders and Pittsburgh have to pick up 4 of these remaining 6 Pittsburgh really needs to pick up 5 out of 6 because they're already a game or a point out. But it should be interesting. It's all going to come down to who blinks first. It could be any of those 3 teams. Truly, if it's Florida and the Islanders, I'm not surprised. If it's Florida and Pittsburgh, I'm not surprised. If it's Pittsburgh and the Islanders, I'm not surprised. So who blinks first?
I agree. And I don't think we've ever collectively as a podcast gotten something wrong more than this race throughout the season. Everything we've said, the following opposite happens for the following week. And then it looks completely different the following week. And we've covered, I think we've done a great job of covering the Eastern Conference wildcard race this season. And people who watch the show
we talk about it every week.
Every single week. And we've been wrong every time. Whenever we talked highly of Pittsburgh, they lost 3 in a row. And then we would shit on them on the next pod, say they're done, and then they'd win 3 in a row, and the next show they'd be in a postseason berth. I don't know. As of right now, knowing that these 3 teams like to shit on my face, I think Florida and Pittsburgh get it done, and the Islanders miss.
Wow.
And if Florida and Pittsburgh get in, VP went 8 for 8 on his preseason Eastern Conference playoff teams. That's why I'm rooting for it.
I mean, it's just going to come down to how well the Panthers perform in these last 3 games. I mean, Toronto and Carolina. Now, I don't know. It could work in Florida's favor, where if Carolina's got the division locked up, they might not start some guys, right? So, I mean, and same goes with Toronto, because Toronto ain't going up or down anywhere. They're not going to catch the Bruins, and they're not going to go down. They're locked in with playing the Lightning at home ice. So that could very well play out in their favor as well. I don't know how much rest these guys will get. I don't know if there's, certain milestones they want to reach, or how the coaches feel about rest. Everybody's coaching mentality is different.
Where do you stand on that?
I don't mind resting some players on the final game.
I get worried about rustiness, and I think
off is that rusty though.
I don't know. I think there's a way to combat it though. I think you play everyone, and they all play 15 minutes no matter what. Everyone gets to touch the puck.
Fair.
Everyone, give and every D plays.
Tell the guys, boys, you don't have to burn yourself out before playoffs start. Just go out, go through the motions, and
yeah. If you're down 1 late, I'm not giving Jack Hughes extra minutes. I'm giving McLeod and Wood and all these guys a chance to tie the game. Instead of every single forward line gets 15 minutes of ice.
You know what? I like that.
Then every D gets 18 to 20. Obviously the top, because there's only 6, the top pair might get 20 and the other 2 pairs get 18. None of this 25, 26 minutes for McAvoy, right? Dougie Hamilton, Doug Hamilton and Siegenthaler, you guys are the 3rd pair tonight. You're going to play 15 minutes. Everybody plays. Everybody gets their touches, their reps, whatever you want to call it. But no, it's like a mix of both. Not like that sick league NBA you got where guys are playing 60 games a season and being pissed off on Twitter that they can't win the freaking MVP because of it, Kevin Durant. Which we'll talk about my favorite NBA team in the 3rd period. Very much looking forward to talking about my Kings. Frank, the top of the Pacific, almost as intriguing as the top of the Central, if not more.
Almost as intriguing, yeah.
Yeah. The Vegas Golden Knights seem to have it in the bag as they enter the final 3 games with a 3-point lead. But my Edmonton Oilers, Bobby Ryan said a lot of things. The only thing I vehemently disagree with him on is his analysis of the Oilers. I've watched the Oilers every single game pretty much this season, especially in the second half, and they've been better than the Bruins. They have. Statistically, they're the best team in the league since January 11th in almost every way. And January 11th is a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like the Oilers. I don't think they're going to making up those 3 games or those 3 points is really hard. I think they're better than Vegas. I think they smoke LA in the series. Wow. I honestly think they're going to dummy them because the Oilers showed me, and I was worried about the Kings. They just played them, and it was the second half of a back-to-back for the Oilers, and the Kings were fresh, and the Oilers were able to dumb it down and win a tight checking 2-1 game with an empty netter, the game where McDavid made the extremely charitable pass to Nugent Hopkins before passing it to Zach Hyman for the empty net goal to get RNH his 100th point. I think Edmonton takes care of business against LA because they have proven to me now that they can win the tight 2-1 game. The empty netter?
Yeah, the Hyman or no Nugent.
No, maybe the Nugent Hopkins ones was against Arizona, but they played the Kings. They played the Kings too in this week, and it was a close game, and they won. And I don't know. I like what I've seen from the Oilers, and I think they're the best team in the Pacific. I think they can win the cup.
Interesting. I mean, they defeated the Knights. I'm saying defeated the Kings the other night, which kind of bounced them out of the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have no chance. Even if they won out and the Knights and Oilers lost out, who would have the tiebreaker between the Kings and
the Kings? Yeah, I think the Knights will clinch not being caught by the. Let's see if they already have.
Well, if they each if they could tie the Knights in points.
Yeah, they could.
If they lost out and the Kings won out.
Yeah, the Knights have the tiebreaker, but it's only by one game, so it's not clinched.
Okay, so they need a point.
They need a point. If they get a point, the Kings can't catch them.
I mean, I think the Knights should have it decently secured anyway, even over Edmonton. Because, I mean, look how well the Oilers have been playing lately. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10 games. They've gotten a point in every game they've played over their last 10 games, which is unbelievable. And they're still 3 points behind Vegas because we talked about this last week, and this is what I referred to earlier in the show about a game in hand. Vegas had a game in hand over Edmonton. They won that game in hand. And now look how important that is. Just that one game in hand puts them 3 points ahead with 3 games left. That's why this late in the season, when we talk about games in hand, it's huge. It really is. Those 2 points in such a short amount of time, it really makes things tougher for the Oilers here. And I'm going to say take the chalk answer and just say Vegas has got it locked up.
I agree.
So
even though, man, it would be nice to see the Oilers win it so they could draw an easier first round matchup. They can play.
They play
Battle of Alberta. It would be or the Jets.
Not Seattle.
No, the Central's going to get
the
Central's going to get Seattle
if Colorado wins.
Yeah, which would be nice if Colorado can't catch Vegas though.
Well, I think Calgary's kind of in trouble here. We'll talk about them with your next point.
Yeah, dude, the Jets and freaking Calgary are in trouble. They both suck, and one of them's gonna get a pity invite to the playoffs, I think. But yeah. And then you touched on it, the West wild card. It's madness. Nashville's still alive, which is cool to see. And then I think realistically it'll be one of the Jets or the Flames. They played each other a couple days ago, and the Flames won the game, which after losing to the Blackhawks, I was honestly stunned that they were able to beat the Jets. And if they were to beat the Blackhawks like they should, 0-2-1 against the Blackhawks this season are the Flames.
When you own a team, you own a team. That's what I like to say.
And guess what? I was at the one game where Calgary got a point, and Max Domi won it in overtime for the Blackhawks. I was at that game, and I just can't believe what Calgary has let the Hawks do to them and basically cost them a postseason spot. Because if you get 1 or 2 extra points, if you get one win against the Hawks this season, you're in a playoff spot right now. Just absolutely horrid.
You get
for the Flames.
They're in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I thought that game against the Jets would feel more meaningful. It felt meaningful. I watched the whole thing on my computer. I don't know, though. I don't know.
The Flames, to me, they're lazy in games. They're a lazy team.
A lackadaisical group.
Especially like after it gets to extra time. They have 15 OTLs, which I'm pretty sure is the most in the league. They only have 37 wins, which is, if you look at all the playoff contending teams, they're the lowest by a mile.
So you're saying if there was no loser point, they'd be dead.
They'd have 74 points.
Yeah.
That's bad.
That was good to know that right off just by looking at the math.
That
Was good math brain right there. Nice math brain.
I'm good. I like math.
I would have taken me 5 minutes to come up with that. I'm not even kidding.
4 points.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, 15 OTLs. I mean, come on. It gets to overtime or shootout. They're just lazy. It's like, we got a point. We got a point.
They don't play well for Daryl.
I mean, if the Hawks get a point, beat them in overtime or a shootout or whatever that game was, I mean, come on.
It was overtime. Domi boy.
And now Nashville, we were talking about this with Bobby. I told Bobby Nashville plays Winnipeg on Saturday. Forget Calgary. Calgary's out in my mind. They haven't impressed me. They can't beat the Hawks.
I don't want them to make it unless they play Edmonton.
Forget
That's the only way. Yeah, they're boring. It's like, you know what I hated, like in NFL when the Seahawks got bounced or when the Seahawks made it in and Detroit didn't. Like, I don't want to watch Seattle. They're not fun. I want to put in Detroit. I want to see Detroit play a playoff game. I feel that way about Calgary unless it was against Edmonton. If it was a lock they'd play Edmonton, I'd root for Calgary. But since it's unlikely they play the Oilers in the first round, give me the Jets or Nashville. So much more intriguing.
Well, tomorrow night, we'll be watching the game together, VP. Nashville and Winnipeg. What a game.
Chef's kiss of a hockey game. I can't freaking wait.
Now, Winnipeg's heavily favored in that matchup by a lot, which is understandable because, Nashville has been – I mean, they're here. They're in the conversation. But Winnipeg's fallen off a cliff too, so I don't think it should be that much of a favorite between Winnipeg. But it's the biggest game of the season for these teams. Winner's in. I'm saying it right now. Winner of these two teams will know who's in the wild. Yep. I don't think anything's going to happen after this game. We have no hockey today, so there's no games going on today. But
weird.
It is weird.
Thank goodness we don't have hockey on Good Friday.
This happened the other day in the NBA too. There was no NBA games ago. What's going on with these off days?
Gary Bettman's a religious man.
Is that really why? Because it's Good Friday?
No.
Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't be stunned.
That would be, Passover's going on. Like, why wouldn't they give him Easter? Like, that would just be such a random day to claim you're giving all the guys off for.
Or maybe he did it maybe he's not going to admit that's the reason, but who knows? I mean, because it's just weird.
I think tomorrow is a paradox.
What is that?
An NHL paradox. I think every team plays tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I think that's probably tomorrow is one of those days that the NHL, I've heard this, the NHL is using tomorrow to market their league as a whole. I think every team plays. I have to fact check that, but I'm almost positive I heard that all 32 teams play tomorrow.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And there's 3 games on ESPN, one of every hour. From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, there's a game on ESPN. The Devils and Bruins are the primetime game of that. So,
well, here's the thing. So I think the winner of Nashville-Winnipeg gets in. But if Winnipeg beats Nashville, that bumps Nashville out. Because they're already a point behind. They're a point behind Winnipeg. So if they're playing each other with each 4 games left, the Winnipeg wins. Now they're 3 points ahead of Nashville with 3 games left. It's a huge game for Nashville. It means more for Nashville than it does Winnipeg. If Nashville wins, they each have 3 games left, but Nashville's got a point lead. So it's a lot bigger of a game for the Predators. The Winnipeg Jets can afford to lose and still feel okay, but the Predators cannot say the same. If they lose, they're cooked.
It's very fair. It's very fair. I kind of want Nashville.
I don't. I want the Jets. I don't like the Predators that much.
Yeah, I know you don't. I mean, they both get creamed by freaking Vegas, right? I don't know though. If Vegas plays Nashville in the first round, that's going to be tough for like beat reporters and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be going from Nashville to Vegas. The players will take it seriously. They'll go to their hotels like good little soldiers. But the beat reporters and announcers and all those people traveling back and forth from the 2 best party cities in our country, it's going to be a fun time for them if those 2 teams. If I'm a Vegas or if I'm a person I know I'm covering this series on the road, I'm rooting for that to be the matchup. Sign me up for that. Did you see the Blues tweet yesterday?
I was so confused when you wrote that down. I think I found the one. Is it the Tarasenko tweet?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going through, I'm like, I don't know which one he's talking about. I was just trying to figure out like which one to me was the funniest. and that's the one I came across.
Yeah, so last night the New York Rangers paid a visit to the Midwest to play the St. Louis Blues, where Vladimir Tarasenko played against the Blues for the first time in his 11-year NHL career. And during his time with the St. Louis Blues, Vladimir Tarasenko was an outstanding player. Just absolutely unbelievable. Stanley Cup champion, multiple 30-goal seasons, lots of goals, lots of great playmaking. Just one of the great St. Louis Blues of this era. And they trade him to the Rangers. He comes back. They make a nice video for him, and then he scores. He scored a goal for the Rangers against the Blues, and the Blues tweeted, Tarasenko scores. That would have been like really cool 3 months ago. And I thought that was one of the funniest tweets. I don't know why. That just cracked me up. I love when people embrace a good meme. And yeah, that's what became of that. I don't know if you thought it was as funny as I did, but I was like dying. I'm like, this social media intern off the hook right now.
It was. I mean, it's funny. I wouldn't say I was necessarily dying. Did the LA Kings score?
Isn't that what it sounded like? I heard the train coming. I was like, I wonder if they're gonna blow the horn.
But yeah, so I didn't see the tweet until you mentioned it. If you wouldn't have said anything, I probably would have went right over my head because I don't follow the Blues on Twitter. So
Boy, you have a hockey podcast. Freaking follow every team.
Screw the Blues. Screw
You
the
gotta
Preds.
follow every team, dude.
Screw them.
I follow
Vegas. I follow the Kraken. I follow.
I don't. There's only one team out of the big four I don't follow. Who is it?
What do you mean? On
Twitter.
the Rangers.
No, I follow the Rangers.
Is it the Cubs?
Yeah.
Really? I thought you'd have them followed because you write for.
I look. It's more like a meme that I don't have them like followed because but I used to have them blocked as a joke too. I've had them blocked for a while. But I unblocked them because now that I write for them, I do have to look at their Twitter page when I need to.
It's a shame.
It's just meant to be funny. It's honestly, I don't know if I'll ever follow them now because I feel like I can't. I feel like at just this point, like I've made it this far. It's funny.
Shame.
You gotta follow every NHL team though. What the hell are you doing? The Connor Bedard sweepstakes, 3 teams tied.
That it's to the point.
All these teams are dumb. All these teams are dumb.
Well,
if I was Kyle Davidson, I would be in Luke Richardson's office every single day. Luke, you starting Hudobin tonight? No. Why? What the fuck?
I mean, I get it. Listen, I get it, but you can't. Just like you said, the players don't care about Bedard coming. They're trying to make a name for themselves.
I didn't say tell the players not to try.
That. No, I know that, but those players could still get a win. Look at Calgary.
I know. I'm not saying don't tell the players not. I'm not mad at the players.
Anaheim doesn't plan on winning. They've lost 9 in a row. So I mean, you check the.
They gotta get one more win. I thought they were gonna get a point yesterday. I thought.
Literally, if Columbus and Anaheim could get a win and the Hawks lose out, they have it locked up.
Hawks.
That's for any of these teams. They're tied. They're all tied with 4 games left to go with 56 points. It's like you can't write this. This is like written. The Hawks win over Calgary could cost the Hawks big time. But I mean, then again, the players don't care. They're trying to. I mean, in their eyes, they did the right thing, right? So but I also have the vibe that the 32nd team isn't going to win Bedard.
You know they have 4 years in a row, right?
What?
The worst team has won the lottery 4 years in a row.
Really?
Jack Hughes is the last player not to go to the worst team.
So, well, that makes me feel even better that it's not going to happen again.
It doesn't because that's when they changed the rule where it's only 2 instead of 3. Once they changed the rule to 2 instead of 3 and the chances became 25% instead of 16%, that's when the worst teams started really running off some lottery victories.
I don't know, VP.
At least if you come in last, the lowest you can fall is 3rd.
Right.
That's why I want them to come in last.
Well,
Get Leo Carlson at the worst. You come in 5th, we're talking Will Smith, Edward Sale. Some of these, they're really good players. They'll probably be NHL top 6 forwards. It's awesome. But I mean,
Well, I want them to come in last now.
Connor Bedard has 72 goals this season.
But I mean, there's nothing. It's out of their hands now because if Anaheim and Columbus lose out, and so do the Hawks, there's nothing they could do. So, but yeah, every time you look at the scoreboard, and Anaheim lost. I mean, you lost 9 in a row. Come on.
The Hawks had lost 8, and they finally got one. I think Anaheim can get one. I don't know why. Anaheim can get one.
But I'm pretty sure their upcoming schedule is like, I think they play the Rangers. The Rangers are probably going to shit on them. It's not a favorable schedule. I'm scared because the Hawks got some games that they could win. The Hawks have been the best of the 3 teams lately, and they
have the worst roster of the 3.
I know,
in my opinion. I wholeheartedly believe that.
I agree with you.
They have the best coach, though. I really like the fact Luke Richardson is so good. The fact that the Hawks with this roster haven't run away with dead last is remarkable. If frickin' that idiot Jeremy Colleton was still their coach, they would have 40-something points right now trying to play the trap, the neutral zone trap, man-on-man coverage, and they would be in dead last by a landslide. And I do get down with building a nice culture while also sucking, which is what the Hawks have done this year. They need Connor Bedard so bad. They need him so bad.
I'm getting nervous. I mean, it's to the point now where you always got to check what Columbus and Anaheim are doing.
I know. And God, Columbus, man, they put the devil shit on them yesterday. They need him too. But I just think you have hockey and you have Line and Kent Johnson's outstanding and a couple of these other guys. Zach Werenski's going to be back next year. Not a lot of people talk about how much the loss of Zach Werenski in October for the whole season has impacted them and made them significantly worse. Like, you take a guy like that off your back end. I'm not saying Columbus would have been a playoff team. I certainly don't think they'd be like a bottom dweller, though. Zach Werenski's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, dude. It's tough. It's really tough.
Very tough.
I see Columbus because the Devils had a lot of injuries in 2018-19. Remember, Taylor Hall didn't play in the second half. A lot of guys were hurt for the Devils that year. And Bratton Heischer didn't have that great of years. It was like a sophomore slump for them too.
Yeah.
And the Devils, they added Hughes, knowing that they were going to get a haul for Hall, no pun intended. And Heischer and Bratt weren't going to be that bad again. And they've turned into superstars since. I see that for Columbus. If they got Bedard, they'd be really good really soon. And that's scary.
Well, let's just hope they go to the Hawks. Then he goes to the Hawks. It's possible.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see how these final 4 games go.
Let's go. Luis Robert, 2-run down. 3-2. 3-2 Sox. Yeah, they went down 2-1 last inning, if you've noticed my mood change. But Luis Robert just hit one to Pluto. And now it's 3-2 Sox. Let's go.
There you go.
For those of you listening to the audio version, tomorrow on Friday or on Saturday, they're going to be like, what the hell? Game's already over. But yeah, that's Connor Bedard. His Regina Pats were up 3-1 in the series, in their playoff series last time I looked. I don't know what's going on right now. But they're trying to win a Memorial Cup. We'll see if Bedard's able to elevate them to that. And then last night, the Seattle Kraken clinched their first ever postseason berth. I watched the Devils, obviously, in both college hockey games. And then when those were over, I started flipping around. I watched my Predators beat the Hurricanes and give the Devils a chance at the division. Once that was over, I flipped to the Hawks. And then once the Hawks were over, the Kraken were literally starting the third period. Mm-hmm. Like, if they win this game, they're up 3-1. They'll clinch a playoff spot. I watched the entire third. Beniers scored a goal, make it 4-1. They clinched their playoff berth for the first time in franchise history. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? What do you think?
I did not watch it, but I enjoyed the news of it. They actually have the ability to overtake the Kings for third in the Pacific. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible.
Are they at 98 points?
Who?
The Kraken? Or are they at 96 and the Kings are at 98?
I think the Kings are at 98 and the Kraken are at 96. So, I mean, there's very well that they get a division spot, which would. So we're eyeing most likely a playoff series between Colorado or the Oilers, which probably doesn't bode too well for the Seattle Kraken. Both would be a tough matchup, but shout out to Matty Beniers, the way he's been. I'm still proud that I called him winning the Calder.
I think that's one of the ones we agreed on too,
Yeah,
right? I mean, he was just so good to end last year. That
Yeah.
great call.
And I remember you saying like, "Oh, you're going with somebody who's not completely fresh in the NHL this year," and I'm like, "Yeah, I think Matty Beniers is going to have a pretty good year." Did I think that he'd have this good of a year where like the Seattle Kraken have 96 points? No, but it makes you feel good when you make a prediction like that and are correct. You look at the goaltending that the Seattle Kraken have; it's not that good. I mean, both Jones and Grubauer got either an 890 save percentage or below, which is terrible. Their goals against is near in 3. They both kind of stink, but they're getting the job done. It's because the Kraken's ability to score. So that's why I think it's going to be a tough ask to beat Colorado or the Oilers. But I mean, good for them. I mean, it takes teams sometimes decades, half centuries to make the playoffs, or even to get their feet wet. So good for them.
Who's the most recent MLB player to be on the Barroom Network?
Player?
Yeah.
Is it Jake Berger?
Jake Berger, bring him home. 5-2 White Sox. Let's go. What a dog. What an absolute
So VP
superstar.
heard nothing I said. He was just worried about the Whites.
No, that's not true. I heard everything you said, actually. I literally heard your entire breakdown of the Kraken and what they did with Beniers as the rookie. I was listening to everything you said. Never accuse me of that ever again. Mother.
Yeah, that's what I got on the Kraken for yourself.
Yeah. Listen, I wrote an article. Did it publish? Did those a-holes publish my article? If they didn't, I'm going to be mad.
No, they didn't.
Whenever they didn't yet. What the H? That is so annoying. The Puck Pros guys are a little slow on publishing some articles every now and then. It's okay. I did 3 ways the Kraken can advance in the playoffs, and I think they need Beniers to be healthy. So I agree with your statements. They need Beniers to not only be healthy, they need him to be producing.
Yep.
I do think he'll win the Calder Trophy.
He got robbed.
Yeah, and the other was goaltending. Philip Grubauer and Martin Jones have been amazing. I think they have a chance. And then the third one was Vince Dunn leading their defense corps to success in the postseason. Vince Dunn's their second leading scorer. He's in the mid-60s for points. It's the quietest, awesome offensive season from a defenseman this season. A lot of that has to do with the things you said about Beniers and, the forwards carrying their own weight and helping the D push it forward. But those are my 3 reasons for the Kraken, or my 3 needs for the Kraken to have a deep postseason run. That article will be found on puckpros.com later on. I'll tweet it later once it's available. But yeah, good analysis on the Kraken, yo.
It's a fun team to analyze.
They are. They really, really are. Frank, that's it for hockey. I mean, we've pretty much covered all bases in terms of the playoff races, players that are interesting.
Where's that guy?
What guy?
Do you guys talk about hockey on this show? Or?
Oh, I know. We just we're at 157 and it's only been hockey. Outside of a Berger home run, it's been all hockey on this show. I mean, some people are just looking for ways to be an a-hole on the internet. Frank, what do you say we move on though and have a little bit of fun in period number 3? Welcome to period 3. I call it the bullshit period. Frank, let's talk some bullshit.
All right.
It's Star Wars weekend.
It is. Star Wars celebrations.
Hey, Star Wars celebration. I have not watched the Ahsoka Tano trailer yet. I cannot wait to do so.
There's some big news that came out about the movies, the Star Wars movies.
I saw the news that Daisy Ridley is returning to play in a Star Wars movie where Rey will try and reignite the Jedi Order. That is going to be an outstanding movie, methinks. At least the prompt of it sounds fun. Skylar points out that the Cubs win. The Cubs did win. Congratulations to the Cubs on a big win today. I don't know any details of the game. I've been prepping for this Bobby Ryan interview, and then once we were done, I threw on the White Sox in the second inning, and they were tied 1-1. And now I'm fully invested in it again. But baseball's been on the back burner for me this morning, but I'm back on track now. Now that the Bobby Ryan interview is over, but yeah, credit to the Cubs, good win today. Star Wars, yeah, cool news, awesome stuff. Is there anything you want to mention about it?
Well, I mean, the news about the so you mentioned Daisy Ridley. There's going to be 3 movies that they're coming out with, and I know one is going to focus. The Daisy Ridley movie will be 15 years after Rise of Skywalker, so it'll get some like backstory of her creating the new generation of Jedi. The one that was really interesting, I thought, is the one that's going to take place. I don't know if this is going to be the actual name of it or if it's just like the working name that they have going on right now, Dawn of the Jedi, which will take place like 2,000 years before like everything's taking place. So like they said, more like a biblical type movie where did the Force come from? How did these Jedi get the Force? Like, where did it just appear genetically, or how they want to do like more how of everything became, which I thought was pretty cool as well. So I'm looking forward to that as well. It's been a while since we've had a Star Wars
Been a
movie,
while.
so I'm excited.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm excited too. Skokes talks about the Ahsoka show. I agree. I'm actually probably looking forward to that more than any Star Wars content, including the movies, just because I think Ahsoka is a very interesting character. Her story development through the years has been wonderful, and it's one of the truly awesome things that Star Wars has done in the last, decade or so. So I'm looking forward to all of it. And I want to point out in the comments, G says, keep an eye out for Dorkside for some sick content.
Absolutely.
Man, fan-sided Star Wars page is off the hook, and G is an outstanding contributor to it. I'm excited. I'll be reading it all. I try really hard. I'm gonna start. We need to make like a group chat on Twitter, and we'll call it our fan-sided group chat. And we just all share our sick articles in it. And then if you have time to read them, you have time to read them. If it's something you're interested in, if it's not, don't read it. But I'm pretty much interested in all the articles that my favorite people write. So whether it's of my interest or not, I like to branch out into new different forms of entertainment anyway. I'll read all the Bachelor recaps if I have to.
I'm looking forward to it.
100%. Frank, I did designate a little bit of time in this show for Frank's Video Game Corner. What do you got?
All right. Well, so a lot's going on, including today was the release of EA Sports PGA Tour. Hold on.
Bless you.
Thank you. Today was the release of EA Sports PGA Tour. It's the first EA golf game released since 2015 Rory McIlroy's golf game. So EA has been on the back burner when it comes to golf, but we'll see how it pans out. It seems like it's going to be fun. I don't know if I'm going to end up playing it, but if you're a golfing fan, have at it. See what EA's got. It's been a while. Been 8 years. So we talked about Star Wars. Star Wars Jedi Survivor releases at the end of this month. That'll be cool. Canon to the overall story. So even if you're not a video game fan, maybe you want to check it out because, some of the stuff that you're going to be seeing in the Star Wars series actually relates to the movies, TV shows. So you could check that out. That'll be a lot of fun too. If you plan on playing it on the PC, it's going to be 155 gigabytes to download, which people are kind of like upset about of how big it's going to be. So you're going to have to create some space there. Skylar says, I don't know if you've played much of the new show yet, but the audio is much more crisp. I have not gotten around to play it yet. I do have it. I have it downloaded. So I planned on playing it the one night and the download took forever. So at least I got it downloaded. So will plan on playing MLB The Show 23 soon. I'm excited about that. Also for God of War Ragnarok fans, because that it was in the talks about being game of the year last year. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people like it. Well, yesterday or a couple days ago, New Game Plus was released for it. if you played through God of War and you've beaten it once already and you found yourself nothing else to do, well, now you can do New Game Plus, start a new save file where there's going to be tons of new features, content, new higher level cap added. Enemies are going to be tougher, but all your stuff carries over, so you'll be able to enjoy your God of War experience once again. That'll be a lot of fun. And then Vin, you'll like this. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is out, and I want to go see it, no matter
Me too.
how good it is. I haven't done any research on it, but I want to go see it. I know there's 2 post-credit scenes, and I know Chris Pratt mentioned like this isn't the end for this Mario universe. Like there were talks about them making a Luigi's Mansion movie and different like movies in the Mario universe to connect with this, kind of like
I get down with it.
Yeah, creating like a Marvel style universe, but with Super Mario Bros. I think that's amazing. The fact that there's 2 post-credit scenes make it seem like they're going to build towards something. And Nintendo being the big market that it is, I would not be surprised. So I want to go see it. That seems pretty interesting. I like the concept, and it just seems a long time coming. Like, why haven't this happened before? Why is this just happening in 2023? So I'm excited. That's what I got for you on video games. And yeah.
Will you be writing about the Mario movie? Can you review that on App Trigger? Is that a thing? Because it's a video game based movie. Like, were you able to write about The Last of Us?
Yeah, and I've written about the Mario movie.
Oh, you
already.
did get an article out about the Mario movie?
Yep, and Matt, who is our lead over at App Trigger, he wrote about the post-credit scenes. So I didn't want to dive into that because I don't want to spoil anything because I haven't seen the movie yet.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
I'll read
we
yours
have-
now and Matt's later.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we are able to write about that content, and Last of Us content's great as well. Which, speaking of that, that is, I'll touch on that too because it's something we write about. It's a must-watch show. It really is.
You watched it?
The Last of Us?
Yeah.
I'm halfway through it.
Oh, okay.
It's a must-watch show. Every episode's elite. It's the same thing you told me about Game of Thrones. You got to watch it. Keep up to date with what's going on. I mean, the show was renewed after the 2nd episode for season 2. It's absolutely stunning. And even if you're not a video game fan, because it's crazy to think that this whole story is based off the video game. It is beautiful. The 3rd episode was just so beautiful. And that was the episode where people are like, it's one of the best episodes in TV history. It's up there. It's absolutely insane. I can't believe like what I watched. It's really good. I highly suggest watching it.
I think I'm going to. You sold me.
Fantastic.
Well, yeah, I might find time for that because I love Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And the new episode of Mando was off the hook. I love Mando.
He's great.
That little girl is in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
She's
Bella
Bella Ramsey, the little queen. When she took her L, though, I almost cried.
It was rough.
It was tough. Frank, update me on my favorite team in all of sports, the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, you're gonna like this, VP.
Let's go, Kings!
They're
Let's go, Kings!
They're 48-32.
Woo!
Games above 500.
Fire!
They clinched the Pacific Division.
Let's go.
And let's go over the teams in the Pacific Division. It's not an easy division.
The Warriors.
The Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, and the Phoenix Suns. It's a tough division to be in. And they clinched the division.
Let's go.
And that's their first division win since 2002-2003. It's been a tough ride for the Sacramento Kings.
It has. All the diehards that have been sticking through for all these years like me, this is for you guys. We've grinded to get here. It all paid off for all of us.
Now,
we did it.
If the playoffs were to start today, and there's going to be some up and downs, they're not locked into whoever they're playing, even with 2 games left. If it were to end today, they would open up against the Golden State Warriors, the reigning, defending champions of the West, Golden State Warriors.
Hell yeah. My Kings.
I mean, the only thing the Kings have in their favor is they'd have home court advantage, and the Warriors are one of the worst teams on the road this year. It's pitiful.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I love how good we've been this season. They're really, really good at putting that ball in that hoop. And I'm just really excited about the trajectory of our team because, you know, what they've been able to do this season in kind of a surprise fashion. You know, we've been put through the ringer as a fan base for the last 30 years.
It's tough.
So, you know, this is our time to shine as Kings fans. So let's go Kings. Very excited for a huge postseason run here. Let's go.
You gonna watch some of their postseason content?
Frank, I haven't missed a Kings game in 30 years. Okay, I'm a diehard Kings fan.
I like to hear it.
And
BC.
we're going all the way. Let's go Kings.
You think they're gonna win the championship?
Oh, hell yeah. Why would I be participating if I didn't think they had a chance? Let's go Kings.
All right, I like it. I like the confidence.
Hell yeah. I mean, like I said, our fan base has just been through a lot. We've been sticking through with this team through thick and thin, and now it's our time to shine. Baseball, you been enjoying the first week of the season?
It's been a little rough for a Cubs and a Mariners fan. Not gonna lie. Mariners 2-5. Oof.
Mariners stink.
All right, watch your mouth. And the Cubs 2-3.
It's 2-5 a non-stinky record.
I mean, it's early, but
Yeah, of course.
it's rough. Yeah, I haven't liked the way they played. Man, they lost a heartbreaker. I forgot who it was against. They had a chance. They went to extra innings, and it was tied 5-5. And they had one out. They had bases loaded, and it was a comebacker to the pitcher. And he threw it home, got the one out, and threw it to first base, and it got away, and he had him beat easily. The run scores. I think, it was against the Guardians, I'm pretty sure. The run
It was the Guardians.
The run scores, and they get the 6th run. They get out of the inning, and they don't score in the bottom of the 10th inning, and it was a heartbreaker. I mean, that was their big downfall. I mean, it's just been down from there. It's been disappointing to watch. The Cubs won today, so they're 3-3. Forgot about that. So that's good. The Rays, how about the Rays? 6-0. They're the only undefeated team left in the MLB. I mean, they played the Tigers and the Nationals, but even sweeping teams are hard, so they swept both.
You mean
teams.
the Tigers who took a series from the Astros?
Exactly. So, I mean, there you have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the White Sox, if they hang on and win this game, they'll be 4-4. Keep at 500 until you get on a nice win streak. I think that's the key to starting any season. Mariners started 2-5. If you go every team has a stretch where they go 2-5. But when you start 2-5 and that's your slump, it's more magnified because that's also your record.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't worry too much. I do think the Mariners have the second best roster in their division and the fourth or fifth best roster in the American League. So we'll see how they're able to pan out the rest of the season. My other team, the Red Sox, they suck. I think they're doomed for last place in the East. But the Braves, my Braves, they're in first place, and they were right there with the Rays as like one of the last teams to get a loss. So hopefully they're able to get it done too. I like watching these teams. Baseball's been fun. It's a little hard to be as committed to like some of my second and third favorite teams when there's also hockey going on. You know, I really start getting into the Braves and the Red Sox when the White Sox aren't on, when hockey's off.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I've only missed one White Sox game, or two. No, one. And including right now, I've been watching pretty much every inning of every game. So baseball's fun. Love it. Excited to have it back. I've become a little bit less of a Cub hater. You know, they're fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and root for them, but we're adults now. Just kidding. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Just glad it's back, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to do before we get into America's favorite podcast segment of the week, I wrote down whatever you want. If you have anything to add to, something you want to talk about really quick, I want to touch on something with the Devils.
Okay.
Yesterday, Timo Meier scored twice. He got to 40. Congratulations.
That's good.
To Timo Meier on reaching 40 goals.
It's really good.
There are only like 10 players in the league with more goals this season than Timo Meier. So credit to him. That's outstanding. Jack Hughes entered the game with 91 points. Outside chance at no chance at 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Needs 9 points in 4 games. He went out and got 4 points. Now getting 5 points in 3 games looks absolutely doable. It's absolutely doable for Lil Jizzy. So let's get 5 points. Let's get 5 points in the last 3 games, Jack Hughes, and reach 100 points. The Devils have never had a 100-point score in their history. I believe Jack Hughes can do it. Go get it, Jackie boy. We're all rooting for you to get to 100. The Devils franchise record is 96. His next point will tie Patrick Elias for the single-season Devils record. His 2 more points will break the Devils season record for points in the season. I do think that's in the bag. He'll get 2 points. He might get that tomorrow against the Bruins. But I'm telling you what, I want Jack Hughes. If he doesn't break the record and stays at 95, I literally think it's impossible.
If he didn't tie it even.
No, I think it's impossible. Like, he'll get a secondary assist by accident. He's so good. Yeah. If he plays, he breaks it. I think 100 is I would bet. Ooh, would I bet on 100? Yes. He's getting 100. Screw it. I'm sick and tired of thinking my guys can't do the shit.
You think he's getting 100?
He gets 100 without the 4-point game.
He's capable of doing it.
Yeah, he got 4 points yesterday. He needs 5 over 3. You're not playing the Blue Jackets every day. But if he could get 1 against the Bruins, I'll like his chances going into Buffalo and Washington. And there's a good chance he gets 2 or 3 against the Bruins. He's their best player. He's one of the best players in the NHL. And then there are a couple other milestones. Jesper Bratt got to 70. Congrats to him on reaching 70 points. That's huge. He sure entered yesterday with 75. And I really want him to get 80. I think I want him to get 80 more than I want Jack to get 100.
That's crazy.
I'm being dead serious because I think Nico Hischier deserves all the recognition. And for some reason, 80 points looks better than 79. And if he gets to 80 points, he'll win the Selke Trophy. He's first or second right now, and he can win the Selke Trophy. I believe it. So he got 2 yesterday. So up to 77 points. He needs 3 points in the final 3 games. We'll see if he can do it. So I just wanted to touch on that really quick.
For sure.
Yeah. So if you don't have anything else to say for this portion of period 3, we will send it to America's favorite podcast segment of the week. Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Howdy.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Good.
Notice
You're
last week
You're lucky you went 3-0, eh?
we swept the board.
You swept the board. I'd be shitting on you hard right now. Oh, I'd be shitting on you hard.
Deliver when you have to. That's what we do.
Yeah, because it's not football season.
And that football, we'll get there. But it is MLB season for the first time on this show. That I'll be giving some MLB picks. There's no hockey today, so I don't have a hockey pick. So I'm going to start off with the NBA. Raptors are playing the Boston Celtics tonight, and the Raptors are 1.5-point underdogs. Very weird. The line was like this the other night, but that's because Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart were both out, so it made a little more sense. Tonight, I'm not seeing those injury reports that I saw before. I mean, they got some guys injured, but then it's weird because the line was moving towards the Raptors, and the Celtics won without Tatum and Smart. So if they played, why would the line still be the same? It just seems like the books wouldn't make the same mistake they did before, which is why I'm leaning towards the Raptors plus 1.5 at -113. It just seems like there's really weird line makings here. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the only reason I'm going with the Raptors. I mean, the Celtics are the world's better team by far, and they're at home. But they just played, and normally playing teams, it's not a back-to-back. They didn't play them last night, but playing the same team twice in a row before you see another opponent, sometimes it changes. And it just strikes me as like since the Celtics beat them the other night, they'd be more of a favorite. I don't know. That's just my logic here and why I like the Raptors plus 1.5. -113, not bad. Now, as far as the MLB goes, we got our first 2 MLB picks of the season. Yesterday was a really weird day for the Rockies in the Nationals game. I don't know if you saw it, but the game ended 1-0 at Coors Field, which is very weird. That's only the 12th time ever that a game has ended 1-0 at Coors Field. The last time that it happened was July 4th, 2018, which is like 5 years ago. It doesn't happen too often. Gore versus Urena tonight. Bats are ready to fly. I like the over 11 here at -117. To me, it's not truly baseball season until you get an 8-7 game at Coors Field. Then it's like, all right, baseball game. Baseball time is here. We got an 8-7 slugfest at Coors Field. And I think the bats are ready to fly, especially after a 1-0 victory. That's so rare. So I like the over 11. Fairly good over and under for being at Coors. Final pick, Blue Jays at the Angels. I like the Angels money line here, -129. It's the Angels home opener. They should be fired up. They took two out of 3 games against the Mariners and 2 out of 3 games against the A's. I love the way they've been playing. Bassett versus Sandoval. Bassett's first outing looked like he forgot how to play baseball. He looked so bad. He gave up 9 earned runs and 4 homers. I'll gladly fade him in this position here against the hot Angels team. Take the Angels with Ohtani and Trout at -129 to beat the Blue Jays tonight. Those are my picks for you. Let's try to sweep the board again and go 26-20.
Very good. Very, very good picks. I think you got this. If you're 26-20, what would would your percent be over 60 then?
No, I don't think so.
It'd
Now
be
it's
close.
because there's so many games. It's hard to move that percentage up and down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So the
We
more
know-
games it is, then the less likely it is to – like I could sweep the board, it might be at 55%.
Yeah.
Or lose, it's tough. It's hard to go up and down now.
26 divided by 46?
Yeah.
56%.
See, you only go up 2.5%.
Yeah.
It's tough. And it's going to be tough to get back above 60, but that's the plan, is to get above 60 before the end of the year. So we'll see.
30 divided by 50. That you would need 3 straight weeks of undefeated to get to 60.
It's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough.
that is tough. There's
But
no doubt about it. That
We're
is
here
tough.
for it.
Absolutely. Well, Frank, that was a dynamite show. I mean, that was truly fun. That was one of those shows where, like, Bobby Ryan has been off for an hour and a half.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we've been talking just us for longer than Bobby was on.
That's crazy.
It was fun though. That interview with Bobby Ryan was everything I expected it to be. All my questions and your questions. I built mine off of yours.
Was it everything you wanted and more?
Yes.
Good.
I asked him a couple extra that I didn't think we'd get to. So, I was excited to hear about, what he thought of Datsuk and Zetterberg.
I
Like,
can't believe I got to them all, to be honest with you.
yeah,
That's
well,
always happen.
that just means he was gracious with his time, and we'll get him back. If Ottawa does something big in the summer, I'll hit him up. He's going to be my Ottawa guy going forward because I like talking about the Senators. And the reason I haven't bought a Senators jersey yet is, for one, the next jersey I buy is still my phone background, the Vancouver reverse retro. But after that, I want to pick a Senators jersey, but I don't know if I want the red one or the black one. And
I
people
agree.
are saying, no todos los dos. Well, no todos los dos dinero. So
I
that
felt so dumb when I said like he wasn't in the league when Vegas was around,
I said it too, though.
because
I
it
forgot.
feels like- it feels like forever, or I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it feels like Vegas hasn't been in the league as long as Bobby Ryan has been out.
Right. I mean, we're going on next year will be what, 6 years?
And he missed some time. He missed some time too with the some of his off the ice stuff, and that's why he came back and won the Masterton Trophy and all that. So
Yeah.
I do understand why it felt, but that revenge tour with Detroit where he won the Masterton, that was definitely post Vegas being in the league and having a cup run and all that. So, but yeah, just a great overall interview. If you're just tuning in now, go check it out. I'm going to be posting it to Twitter. It'll be on Spotify and Apple in short order here. Just a great show. I'm very happy with what we do here at Bar Down. This is my baby, and it'll be the last thing I give up in terms of podcasting. Like, I just love doing this hockey show and talking hawk as often as I can. So big games this weekend, college hockey tomorrow night. The Memorial Cup is going on, or the Memorial Cup playoffs are going on, because, I love following Major Junior. And that'll get us ready for the NHL draft, of course. The NHL's going strong. You got divisions trying to be won here in the last week, postseason spots clinched up in the wild card. So it's going to be a good time, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And to all the people in the chat, Skokes, Skylar, Tom, Caitlin, of course, shout out to everyone. Love you guys all very, very much. Frank, is there anything you want to say before we get on out of here, besides telling people to go to apptrigger.com to read your shit, go into Puck Pros, Putts and Pitchforks, Black and Teal, The Windy City, and Southside Showdown to read my shit? So
I have two things. I just realized I had Luis Robert in fantasy.
that's why I said it.
Oh,
And then the burger thing was because he's been on the Barroom Network.
I forgot about Luis Robert.
Yeah.
And secondly,
Luis Robert Jr. to you,
sorry,
mother.
sorry. We're buddies. We're on a first name basis.
That's true. Well, first and
I
last name,
call him
but
Lou.
yeah. Lou Bob.
No, I call him Lou though, because we
Remember Bob? We had Bobby Lou in Vancouver in Florida,
yeah.
and now we have Lou Bob in Chicago.
And if the podcast is your baby, what does that make me then?
My baby daddy.
All right, that's all I got for you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this show. Can't wait to be back with you next week. You can check me out Monday night on the South Burbs Hitman podcast, where we will be joined by Chicago White Sox MC, one of the two great MCs they have there at the Chicago White Sox. Drawing a blank on his first name. Something Lee. Oh, no. I'm a
Stan.
tweak. I wish it was Stanley. Getting Stanley on the show would be...
McDonald's.
Huh?
You said MC, and I thought McDonald's.
An MC, Frank.
I know
Ryan Lee.
I know what MC is, but
Apologize, Ryan.
and I thought McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Ryan Lee will be on our show. Can't wait to talk White Sox. Then following week, we'll be back with Bart on it. I've appeared on the Barroom Network every day of the week except Friday and Saturday. Now I can cross off Friday. I've been on a Monday. I've been on South Burbs Hitman on Monday. I've been on Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls on Tuesday. I've been on Bar Down on Wednesday. I've been on Crosstown Crosstalk on Thursday. I've been on this show now on Friday. Nothing on Saturday. And then I went on a couple football shows. What was the football? I've been on Fantasy Football Goon on Sunday. And I've been on the Barfly Tailgate Show, I think it's called, on Sunday as well. So now I got to get a show on Saturday. I got to get in on a show on a Saturday. Maybe talk
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, hell yeah. So that's where we're at. I hope everybody enjoyed today's show as much as I did. It's truly one of my favorite shows we've ever done. Thank you to Bobby Ryan for joining our show. And as always, happy birthday to Joey Parisi. This is the last show
JP.
before his birthday. Very much looking forward to celebrating all weekend with him. And I hope that you go into your birthday coming off a huge loss to the New Jersey Devils tomorrow night. Just because it's your birthday, I ain't going easy on you. I ain't going easy on you, pal. I hope the Devils smoke you. I hope you see Jack Hughes in your dreams and your nightmares.
Wow.
And happy Easter to everybody. Happy Passover. Enjoy all the holiday celebration. As always, thank you for listening.